Okay, so I'm not going to slam this. I want to call to order our meeting tonight for March 29th, 2021 at 5 p.m. We're not going to have a work meeting because we're just going to roll right into the regular meeting. So here we go. Declaration of conflict of interest. Sean?
No.
Cameron?
No.
Myself, no. Karen? And Dean's not here yet. So review and possible approval of the draft minutes for February 10th, 2021 planning and zoning meeting. Anybody have any comments on those?
I couldn't get to them, so I didn't read them.
I still haven't read them either. So can you email those to us in Word or something? Because we're having a hard time getting them. Okay, so I motion to table the approval of the February 10th, 2021 draft minutes.
Second.
Okay, I motion, Cameron seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for C.
I'll make a motion to I'll make a motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing.
Second. So we have a motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we're going to start with number A, which is the proposed concept plans for approximately Camino del Rio and SR9. So if you have any comments, would you please step up to the microphone, state your name, and let us know. Okay. Since I don't see anybody else waving. No. Go ahead and wave it. Yeah, he hasn't told us if he's not coming, so he usually lets us know. All right, thank you. Oh, okay, there we go. Nice view. Is this the one?
There you go.
Okay, perfect.
Is this the same as last time?
Nope, different. Why would I submit the very same thing,
I was just
Cameron?
wondering.
So this is relatively short, so I'll just go ahead and read it into the minutes, but Crystal has a copy. So regarding the proposed concept plans for approximately Camino del Rio and SR9. So it's not
Will you
muffled.
state your name just for this?
Lori Rose. Thank you. At the March 17th Planning and Zoning meeting, the developer acknowledged that some structures will be raised out of the 100-year floodplain, but represented that there would be minimal impact to the floodplain. It was implied that the trailer park would be located within the flood zone. However, the developer also acknowledged that the licensing corporation, KOA, would have numerous requirements. He really underscored that. It sounded like he didn't even know what all of them would be. Therefore, since statements made in public meetings are not binding, any approval granted by the town must contain specific language to protect the town's up and downstream property owners. It's my position that any fill of the 100-year floodplain must be explicitly permitted by the town only after the preparation and review of a thorough hazards report as allowed in VULU Chapter 2202 to determine the impacts of the proposal. I highlight, the concept plan still lacks basic information necessary to evaluate the proposal. Since this project has not been noticed for the required conditional use permit, only a public hearing on a concept plan, I expect there will be further opportunity to discuss such a study in the future prior to the review and issuance of a conditional use permit. Though it is not clearly detailed on the concept plan, it is clear the development is proposing trailer pads to be located very near to the river, as well as a new bridge crossing over the river. The proposal appears to channel the river to the extent that the floodway, which is a legal term, the Army Corps of Engineers has oversight over the floodway. So it appears there's a possibility the floodway may be impacted and an Army Corps of Engineer permit could be required. And again, an emphasis, it is imperative and I implore the Planning Commission require the completion of a hazards report, and once received, provide the findings to the citizens of town for discussion in a public hearing. Information from this report can then be used to determine which steps should be taken to reduce the impact of the proposal to an acceptable level where other properties are not affected. All applicable provisions of Chapter 22 must be met prior to the approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Any further comment? With that, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Lori, for your comments. We'll move on to item B, which is the proposed concept plans with a conditional use permit for gas station at approximately SR9 and Sheeps Bridge Road. Okay, open up to public comments. Will you guys please state your name? And we're going to try to stick to just the gas station facts, if we can. And let's try to, I know we're all emotionally charged. Let's try to keep those under wraps as well as the commission. And thank you.
My name is Pat Galvez. I live on 1420 West. I got my letter in the mail, thank you very much, and I got the plat map. It's up there. I've been looking at the plat map. So on the plat map, it shows two entrances. There's one on Sheep Bridge Road, which is right about down here, and there's one on 1420 West. Why? Who approved or who decided these two locations?
Okay.
If I consider that, why? I'd like to know why there's not one or more entrances on State Route 9. I think that's worth consideration. I drove up and down Virgin several times this week. I've noticed that there is a brand new State Route 9 entrance at the Weeping Buffalo Zion Resort, or whatever the name it is, for that development. Just a minute, let me get my notes here. So I believe there could be a State Route 9 entrance on this development. So if you look at the Zion Weeping Buffalo Resort, there's a brand new entrance being built into that area directly on State Route 9. I've heard rumor that you have the adjacent streets are the reason they don't use State Route 9. Zion Weeping Buffalo Resort has an entrance or a street on its side, 310 West. It's on its east boundary. That should be used. We need to be consistent. Likewise, at State Route intersection with 700 West, it's where the Buffalo Trails restaurant is, and then there's a residence on the side, the opposite side, where they sell firewood. They both have State Route 9 entrances. They don't use 700 West. I think that needs to be considered. So the other thing that I've looked at here is, or I guess I want to comment on, at the last meeting, these entrances was commented on a woman here at the meeting. I don't see her here tonight. I don't know who she was, but she said that the 1420 West proposed entrance would not be used much for the gas station. So I've looked out on the highway and I don't believe her statement to be very factual. So I noticed this week that presently on leaving Virgin on westbound State Route 9 at the Sheep Bridge Road, there is no left turn lane. So right at this point here, traffic coming from Virgin and heading west, there's no left turn lane to go to that entrance. It is the beginning of a central lane or a center lane at that point. So the road begins widening for a center lane, but there's no left turn lane to go to the proposed gas station or gas station entrance on Sheep Bridge Road. Presently, there is a center lane on State Route 9 in front of this Lot 1. There's a center lane and it goes in front of Lot 4, and then it eventually turns into a left turn lane into 1420 West. So I think there's some possible hazards with this site plan concerning State Route 9. Okay, just as you go west of Fort Zion Gift Shop, the speed limit increases from 45 to 55. And within a quarter mile potential traffic may be slowing down and trying to turn left to this proposed gas station. If they do, there's no left turn lane for them. So they're going to be causing traffic impediments, slowing down braking, and that not only will they be trying to turn left, the oncoming traffic, that road narrows at that point from a right turn lane on Sheep Bridge Road, and there's a left turn lane or a center lane turning onto Mesa Road. So it's kind of a pretty congested area. So the braking and the potential left turning vehicles could cause surprise and accidents to following traffic. Also, there's a high number of RVs and vehicles pulling trailers on State Route 9. I don't know the percent, I don't know the number, but I believe it's a significant percent and it needs to be considered. So those wanting gasoline at this proposed station, trying to make a left turn onto Sheep Bridge Road, would likely be a higher hazard at that intersection due to their larger size and or their additional trailer. Another point on this is the westbound traffic is mainly tourists or non-locals, and they're unfamiliar with State Route 9, the lanes, the swerves, and the turns. And if they see a proposed gas station, this proposed gas station, they could act hastily after they see the station. That is, as they increase up to that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and then they hazardously make a quick left turn on the Sheep Bridge, just like what we all have to do when we're coming from Herc and trying to turn into our Laverkin post office. There's no left turn lane for us. I asked a cop down there one night coming home from work, what would they do if I turned into that oncoming left turn lane and turned into the post office? He said, well, that's probably the safest thing to do. So but it's a hazard every time I do that. Most tourists would probably see the station, look for the left turn lane after they've passed the gas station, and then they're going to be in that center lane crawling along looking for how do I get to that gas station. So they're going to head further west and they're going to get onto the left turn lane into 1420 West, which is a safer route. However, the woman here said people won't be using 1420 West that much for the gas station. I think they will. I don't think there's any difference. If you don't have access straight on to State Route 9, then it's going to be a traffic problem. The other point on this, out on the west side of Virgin, we have a lot of open space. The open space districts, we have the rural residential zones are abundant. There will be a lot of complex businesses in this one plan. You've got the gas station, you've got the retail store, you've got the cabins, you've got a restaurant that's going to grab passerby's attention. They're going to be slowing down, just like what we deal with when we go by Fort Zion Gift Shop. People pull off both sides of the highway and look over the business, figuring out what they're going to do. So this could happen to this area as well. So the point where the woman said 1420 won't get that much traffic turning into this facility, I totally disagree. We don't know, but it's not looking good from my standpoint, and I'm not an expert. Okay, a couple new points I found looking at this. I'm concerned about the signage. What sign will capture and attract the traffic? How high will a sign be? Will the signs have lights in them? How bright will these lights be? Will there be any shielding from these lights to not have that light come into the neighborhood in the residential area? How many signs are proposed out there? If there's illuminated lights on the buildings, will they be in the front or on both sides? Especially if you look here, the parking area for the restaurant and the store, the front of those are to the residential area. There's neon lights on those buildings, that's going to be ruining the dark sky experience. So the gas pump canopy lights, I'm assuming there'll be lights and there'll be a canopy over the gas pumps. And commonly those lights are high, they're fluorescent, and they be shielded in any way to keep the light out of the residential area. I worry about delivery trucks for the gas station, tanker trucks, and delivery trucks for the restaurant. Commonly, these trucks come after business hours. And I don't want late night or early morning deliveries with Jake brakes and backup beepers and idling motors during the quiet time from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. for these deliveries. Finally, on this map that I looked at, it's a question, and I don't know if too many people know about it. This blue area, like here by 1420 West and State Route 9, is designated as a septic tank and a landscaping required. I'm not sure why that's in that corner and who decided this location for that. Currently, this whole intersection right here gets flooded with mud, sand, and water when there's downpours, and that water runs straight down 1420 West, down the paved road into the neighborhood and through the end of the street. I would hate to think if there's any problem with their flooding and any septic issues that we're bringing raw sewage onto that street. I don't really like all of the things crammed into this one site, including the gas station, but I'm sure the gas station is going to be included with the septic connections because they probably have restrooms just like the cabins in the restaurant and the retail store. But the septic could work better on the other side because there's more of a natural drainage down away from the residential area on that side of these lots. So I really hope proper time's taken with the developer and make sure that the developer ensures all these things and ordinances are being met for the town and for the neighboring residents, and in their planning, but also in the continued operation if this is approved and goes through. I'm not in favor of it, but I do believe that there's a lot of concerns that need to be ironed out before anything is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Hello, April McKeon. So first of all, I have just a general statement about conditional use permits. And then I have a list of possible adverse impacts and mitigation. At the last meeting, you asked us, thought it would be proactive to list some mitigation efforts. So first of all, over the past 2 years, the Virgin Planning and Zoning, in conjunction with Virgin Town Council, have been aggressively rewriting and approving land use ordinance changes. Such changes have increased the types of developments that are considered permitted uses in a commercial zone that in the past required a conditional use permit. Therefore, the planning zoning public hearing will only allow comments concerning the gas station. Interestingly, though, other aspects of the project, such as parking requirements, reuse of wastewater for irrigation, and building size bonuses include the gas station. So it seems like it's one project that needs to be looked at as a whole and not just try to break something out. It's clear from the the square footage of the cabins, which are actually short-term rentals, are not included in the density calculations at all. And it's clear from the concept plans that the density of this development exceeds the requirements of the VULU and that planning and zoning is ignoring some of the basic tenets of the town's commercial zone vision, which is 20.1.2, restrict commercial buildings to protect views and environment. 20.1.3, limit density to minimize infrastructure demands. 20.1.4, encourage incorporation of open public spaces. 20.1.6, encourage the use of natural landscaping and minimize site disturbances. 20.1.7, encourage the development of services for community and tourists, but emphasis for me on community. So if you look at the gas station impact, the adverse impacts are most of the residents of Desert Gardens agree that the location is not appropriate. So the mitigation to that would be don't allow the gas station to be constructed at this location. If you refer to 20.5 conditional uses, there's a portion that says because of the visual and topographic fragility of this area, Development standards will be specifically tailored to minimize site disturbance and visual impact. And like Pat was saying, I think I'm really thankful that he spoke about what he talked about, use of 1420 West as an access. We think that's an adverse impact. So one way to mitigate that is do not allow 1420 West as an access, or if it is allowed, then we need to mitigate it. One thing it will do, it require significant and undesirable site disturbance. There's a berm there now, and that would have to be removed. So as per VULU chapter 20.1.6, encourage the use of natural landscaping and minimize site disturbance. The other thing the use of 1420 West would do is increase traffic into Desert Gardens, and that exacerbates an existing hazardous intersection, as Pat alluded to. So I think we need to request a UDOT study for potential speed limit reduction, and if the speed limit is reduced, and access off of SR9 might be a more viable option. Okay, the other thing is potential of off-street parking due to insufficient parking in the development. I think you're going to see that on both sides of 1420 West. So I say to mitigate that, you don't allow parking on 1420 West between SR9 and 100 South. The use of signage and make it a tow-away zone. There'll be increased wear and tear on the roadway, so we require the developer to maintain the section of 1420 West between SR9 and 100 South with crack sealing and seal coat projects, different types of mitigation to keep that street in better shape. Then we have the traffic on Sheep Bridge Road, the impacts of that. If we use Sheep Bridge Road as an access, it'll cause increased traffic on Sheep Bridge Road. So we need to require the developer to pave Sheep Bridge Road from SR9 to the south end of the property boundary to reduce dust and also incorporate turn lanes and for safety, just as Pat described. We need to there would be increased parking created due to the insufficient parking in the development. So I say we don't allow parking on Sheep Bridge Road between SR9 and the south property boundary. Again, using signage and tow-away zone. Another adverse effect are the lighting impacts. Residents will be adversely impacted by light trespass from the development, specifically the gas station. The gas pump canopy will impact the night sky, which is an important aspect of Virgin Town tourism industry and rural character. In VULU 20.20, it says, the commercial zone shall be characterized by clean, low-lit, and suitably scaled development and buildings that reflect the rural character of Virgin. So you need to take that into consideration. Traffic headlight trespass into residential houses. In order to mitigate that, maybe a decorative wall along 1420 West to offset the light trespass, especially if that natural berm is disturbed. A lot of the residences will be looking straight into that development with no boundaries. So for the gas pump canopy lighting, we need to limit the amount of lighting under the canopy and require fully shielded lighting. Hours of operation are another impact. Reduce the hours of operation, require lighting to be turned off between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Then we have the visual impacts. The residents' views will be significantly impacted by the entire development. However, specifically related to the gas station and the conditional use permit. And once again, if you reference VULU, it says that the commercial zone should be characterized by clean, low-lit, suitably scaled development buildings. And VULU 20.1.2 restrict commercial buildings to protect views and environment. Another one of the visual impacts is the size and the heights of the buildings. We need to require a small scale gas station with pumps and a low canopy similar to the Chevron in Springdale, or I recently passed a Maverick in Moapa that was just a very small, well-lit downlighting, and it was not that impactful. Other visual impacts would be the color of the buildings. VULU 20.16.3 indicates the color may be addressed in detail during design or conditional use review. Generally acceptable colors are earth tones reflecting the naturally occurring color in local rock, soil, and vegetation. Overall color scheme shall be earth tones which enhance the natural setting. So we have examples in our community like bright white and salmon colored buildings, and those to me do not reflect the natural color of the surrounding landscape. I think we need to be more careful about that. Landscaping buffers. Okay, we need to incorporate a landscape buffer between the development and adjacent residents to reduce the visual impacts of the development. And we have noise impacts. Increased noise from the development will impact residents negatively. VULU 20.18.9 says quiet time is between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. So, I mean, I think some of the residents think even that's too liberal. Gas pump noise. We need to require that there's no television screen or talking monitors on the pumps. We need a sound wall. Sound wall needs to be at least 8 feet tall or more to mitigate noise for the adjacent residents. Then I have a kind of an issue with the bonus given for the wastewater. A bonus given for reuse of wastewater for irrigation is in violation of current Utah code, which allows gray water used for single-family residents only, not commercial buildings. Unless I'm mistaken and I couldn't find the updated code unless they've changed it, but that's what I'm finding out. So I don't think there should be any bonuses given for reuse of wastewater on the entire project. Then open space, I don't think this project provides enough open space, and we need to limit the density of the buildings that as they're shown on the concept plan. So I'd like to leave this with you, and you can submit that into the.
Perfect. I will add it. Thank you.
We need more space.
So you could be fashionably late.
Okay, Lori Rose. Regarding the proposed development fronting SR9 between Sheep Ridge Road and 1420 West. Thank you for considering the following comments. I'm going to attempt to provide a verbal synopsis instead of reading all the detail through. But I'm giving you each a copy, so you have all that. And I will mention some of these points just as foundation for what I'm saying. But it's going to clearly be up to the Planning Commission and the zoning administrator to dig into these things and make determinations. Comment number 1. The proposed cabins are not a permitted use in the commercial zone. It's been suggested that the public comment only be taken on the gas station, claiming other uses are permitted under a commercial zone. However, the proposed cabins do not meet VULU ordinance definition of dwelling or STR unit. They are at densities that far exceed the densities of the number of dwellings permitted on a legal lot in VULU and do not meet the requirements of short-term rentals clearly outlined in Chapter 60. So if you you can take a look as referenced here, STR unit definition, dwelling definition. I included dwelling definition because the STR unit is specifically a residential dwelling. There's the sections 8.06, 8.12 that talk specifically about every dwelling is to be located on a separate lot. There are a few exceptions to that, but STRs are not one of the exceptions. The exceptions include group dwellings, which STRs are not group dwellings, cluster dwellings, which refer to conservation subdivisions, condominiums, and other multi-structured dwelling complexes. If you go to 1812, it clearly states that the number of residential units for a parcel shall be determined in according with the following development yield formula. The base development yield is 1 dwelling unit per acre. And item 2 in that says the maximum bonus permitted is 20% if you provide certain amenities, not 24 units. And again, it does not meet any of the definitions. Chapter 60 in short-term rentals states some very clear specifics right up front. The whole chapter, the purpose of the chapter is to describe the process and set forth standards for the leasing of entire residential dwelling units. So this applies to all STRs. Again, there's a definition reference that incorporates the definition in chapter 2. And it specifically talks about 60.02, that staff may approve short-term rentals only if the proposed STR unit is located in a STR development overlay zone. The STR unit may not be compromised of, a part of, or a conglomerate of a boarding house, lodging house, hotel, motel, tent, campground, cabin, travel trailer, recreational vehicle, RV, mobile home, or non-tourist-based congregate living facility. And the STR units must be located on dedicated streets that meet all requirements of the current version of the International Fire Code. So I think you can go through all of those and take a look, but I think the interpretation that these are STRs are therefore permitted is mistaken. And I would point that VULU clearly states when you have conflicts, though I don't think there are conflicts in this ordinance. I think it's just a matter of what's being interpreted. But if there are conflicts, what is supposed to rule are the most restrictive, not the most lenient or permissive. So comment 1, the proposed cabins are not a permitted use in the commercial zone. Comment 2. 2 of the 4 lots proposed by the developer for future subdivision, specifically lots 2 and 3, do not meet the minimum area requirements of the zone, nor do they have frontage on a dedicated street or right-of-way as required by VULU. There's the pertinent references. Chapter 8.04 lot standards. Every lot to be created shall have the area, width, and depth required, which is 1 acre in the commercial zone. And they should all have frontage upon a dedicated or publicly approved street or upon a private street or right-of-way approved by planning and zoning before a building permit is issued. Comment 3, VULU does not have the creative provisions of a planned unit development procedure in our ordinance. It's too bad we don't. Those kinds of things are useful, but we don't have that. We've been simplifying and reducing and taking out some of the creative chapters we used to have. As such, the proposed sharing of open space and other claimed density bonuses between buildings is not permitted. The pertinent references, chapter 8.08, yard space for 1 building only. No required yard or other open space around an existing building or which is hereafter provided around any building for the purposes of complying with the provisions of this ordinance shall be considered as providing a yard or open space for any other building, nor shall any yard or other required open space on an adjoining lot be considered as providing a yard or open space on a lot whereon a building is to be erected or established. So the open space cannot be considered between lots. Sale or lease of required space. You can't sell or lease any area that's meeting a required setback, yard, coverage, parking, or other requirements in VULU. And you can't sell any lots below the minimum space requirements, but if you look at lots 3 and 4, they are clearly well below an acre. Or excuse me, 2 and 3, not 3 and 4, I think. Oops. Somebody else pick that up. Comment number 4. The off-street parking spaces as drawn on the concept plan do not appear to meet the minimum required dimensions of 10 by 20. I use the 28-foot road because you can't read there's no usable scale. It says 1 inch equals 40 feet, but what we get on the public notice website is not drawn to scale. It's been greatly reduced and we don't know by what ratio. So I use the 28, and you can cut that down to 14, and you can figure out, what roughly things are. Those drawings, the drawings of the current parking spaces are not 10 by 20. They're much smaller than that. And the groups of parking spaces exceed the required limit of no more than 100 feet of contiguous parking. Frankly, I think as drawn, the developer's going to have a hard time providing the required parking spaces. I have a question because Vulu says that, and I think this has been recently changed since I was on Planning Commission, that parking, 80% of the required parking must be located on the side or front of each land use. It's like, well, wait a minute here. Frontage is along the highway. Frontage is not based on where your entrance is. Frontage has to do with streets. And none of this parking is along SR9. I mean, I prefer it personally to be behind the buildings, honestly, but that's not what Vulu got changed to because some people did not like having to put behind buildings. So it's now required to be in front. I do find it interesting and kind of tying back to some of the other comments. I think this site is so packed that the functional use is very difficult. And I see no provisions for any RV parking, let alone pull through. Being somebody who has a lot of experience driving a long bed truck and pulling a long horse trailer, if you were driving a full-size RV bus with a vehicle behind, I don't see how you even get into these pumps and back out safely. It looks very challenging to me. And of course, there's no place for them to park. And that is also mentioned in that section about landscaping. Parking lots are supposed to be landscaped, and there's no indication in this concept plan that there's any landscaping in the parking lot. Comment number 5, fundamental information necessary to fully review the proposed development for consistency with Vulu and to evaluate the project's impacts on neighboring properties has not been provided. The concept plan does not address building heights and colors, locations, height, and design of signs, lighting or landscape plans, open space area calculation. Just pointing out that open space, if you go to the definitions in Vulu, as shown under pertinent references, open space is not just all areas that are pervious. There are areas that are essentially open for public use, such as parks, courts, playgrounds, golf courses, and other similar open areas. And these are then used to meet the density requirements of a development. It's not just a little landscaping island. That's not an open space. There's also no required trail in lieu of a sidewalk along SR9, shown in the drawing. Comment number 6. The Planning Commission must fully identify the impacts of the development on neighboring residential properties using SMART as defined in Vulu, and then develop a corresponding list of mitigating requirements. I think you've had some assistance here today that adequately reduce these impacts. There's a very specific process for you guys in Vulu about addressing conditional use permits. If the impacts cannot be reduced, the Planning Commission should not grant the conditional use permit. That's again stated in Vulu. Comment number 7. The developer must improve the first portion of Sheep Ridge Road to accommodate access to the development and should be required to add turn lanes and acceleration deceleration lanes at Sheep Ridge Road to ensure safety on SR9. This has already been brought up, but I'm just adding additional information. If you go to 8.48, utilities and infrastructure, and the highlighted section at the end of that paragraph, This isn't a condition of a conditional use permit. It's required by VULU. All ingress and egress roads shall connect with improved paved and dedicated roadways leading to property. So thank you for your time, your consideration, and hopefully I organized this enough that it makes some clear sense. So thank you.
Darlene Pope. I have a question. The letters that were submitted for the, I don't know what to describe it as, an informal meeting on the 17th, are they in this record as well?
Yes, it will be attached.
All right. I concur with everything that has come before. I too have created a little spreadsheet. I am not yet as adept with the codes. I'm learning rather quickly. But it's clear there are serious problems with this plan. And you can't untangle the gas station from the rest of it. Some of the things I'm going to show you are what cars coming out onto 1420, because they will, at night, will do to not just the people directly behind, but people who were far enough away to not receive a notice. So I have, some of them one received a notice, two did not. So I have taken photographs of how that would impact their bedrooms and their backyards, despite their current fencing. There's so many things that are unclear, like are these one-story buildings? What's the square footage? How can we even propose ideas to mitigate if there's so little information? And how do we know we'll have the chance to do so in reference to the cabins? As far as the gas station, I do have a photo that I'll give to you of the one that April mentioned. I do have a photo of a gas station in Flagstaff, Arizona, with very minimal impact. The one thing I would like to add as a consideration for conditional use on any building there is that windows be primarily placed, if not exclusively placed, on the northern face and the eastern face to reduce that another source of unwelcome light into the neighbors, especially that back up onto that, and to ensure their privacy as they sit in their backyard. I have a study on lighting, and downlighting is a powerful thing when done properly, and it's shielded. So yes, canopies in most gas stations are downlit, but they are not shielded. And I have a study that shows an economic benefit for the owner of shielded down lighting. And so this is a study done by the Lighting Research Center, and it's very, very detailed. I most robustly, seriously, sincerely hope you will consider these things and not just push this through. We've repeated over and over, we understand that's commercial. We understand there would be some development. But just to realize that this is over the top. And how are you going to protect, as much as we can, our night skies for our whole community and our right to enjoy our property of the citizens who live in this area? Thank you.
Hello, Libby Wilson. I live in Desert Garden, 58 South, 1500 West. Libby. Libby Wilson. I concur with everything that's been said, but I just want to add one other thing. I'm a waitress in Springdale. I come home every night around 11:30 to 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Every night I almost see 2 or 3 accidents. As soon as you come off that new 4-way highway by the old 101 and coming into Virgin, everybody's trying to zip home. Everybody going to Laverca and Hurricane and stuff. When you get out by Fort Zion, those cars are going crazy. They're trying to pass everybody. They're tired of, buying by the speed limit. Since we've done away with the Springdale cops patrolling this area, occasionally you'll see the sheriff there. Not very often at all. And people are just going crazy. I see accidents just ready to happen, especially when you get there where it's the turn in to Desert Garden. People think that's a passing lane and they just zip out there and stuff, but this is all going to be right here where all this development is. I mean, that is just really going to add to the traffic problems coming in there, that they're really going to have to think this through, or I really think you're going to see some serious accidents there. I mean, it's really bad. I don't know if anybody else is ever out at that time of night to see what's going on, but it's crazy. It really is. So just wanted that in the record. Thank you.
John Ely. Personally, I couldn't ask for 3 better presentations than what I've just heard. They were very well prepared and to the point. Only a couple of things I'd like to mention. It's my understanding the gas station pump hours could be 24 hours a day, a serious impact. Use the quiet hours if nothing else, okay? I agree totally that you cannot separate this gas station from the rest of this proposed development. I'm not going to say anything more because it was said very well and documented very well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Wilson, Desert Gardens. Was a park ranger, retired a few years ago. When I first started working in 2008, there was 1.6 million people that came into the park, and it was handled very well. Last year, they did 4.5. The amount of traffic coming through this road right here is coming at a very fast pace. It's going to grow every year. There's more traffic. We don't have the police force, not now anyhow, and there's going to be more serious accidents. So are we going to put in a stoplight after all this happens or before? I love the area. I've been here 16 years, my wife and I. I hike in the backcountry. I just really am adamant about the amount of growth and the ambient light that makes our community special. Thank you.
Oh, gosh. My name's Eric Wallentyne, 1029 West 150 South. I wouldn't say I'm a new resident. I worked here in the 80s in the park, and I do appreciate all the legwork you guys have done. I'll say right up, I think this is a bad deal. The more I learn about the project, the more it seems like it's going to have a lot of negative effects. With that being said, I'll say what I like about Virgin. Again, some of the quirky nature and those aspects are neat. I love seeing ostriches as I drive up the street. The night sky. I'm a biker or a cyclist, and I love the trails out there, and I hate to see things get destroyed. You're going to have a bunch of bikers, and you're going to have side-by-sides and quads. It's come to my attention in Moab. It's become quite the cluster, F word, of side-by-sides running all hours of the day. do we want to be like that? I mean, we have the opportunity too to steer this. When I look at, Virgin, that name, that word, I've got a young daughter. Let's say we all have a beautiful daughter, and there's a bunch of people courting her, men courting her, and anything could happen. Do we want to have any input in that? The prodigy, the offspring, what will we invite? So, we can get overrun and make some short-term profit. But in the long haul, the aesthetic and the quality of life is important to me. And you can't mandate that necessarily. And again, I could care less if people have chickens. I could care less if people collect steel and put it in the front yard. I kind of like that. But I'm hopeful that this will slow down to the point where we can learn more. And again, I'm very appreciative of all the legwork and inputs that people have made, because that minutia, that's what happens at the end of the trail when the developer or whomever the owner of this property is. I'm curious who that is. Are they looking in the best interest of the community? Probably not. No, it's profit. Of course, I can understand. So the density is that. But I'm going to side with the community at large, or who's represented here, and I don't like it one bit. Thank you.
Hello, friends. As a person right in front of that gas station, we're tremendously impacted. I don't like it, of course. And if it does go through, I'd like to see a lot of modifications to the plan. I think any development should have landscaping that protects the residents. Rio de Sion was well protected by the RV park. I consider it an asset to the community. I'm not an obstructionist, okay? And I was for development because I think our community needed some development, but we have a heck of a lot of projects going on. And can we address that and get all of the things that are really important to the residents and to our town well addressed, well taken care of, and that beautify our city like that hotel? Beautiful. And it again, they protected Rio de Sion fairly well. I think we're more than tents, trailers, and teepees. And I see that happening. Too many RV parks. I love the one we have, but how many is too many? I want to see a lot of real specific guidelines to protect us. That's why I voted for this city council, was to protect us, not to rezone and make it easier for the person with the commercial property. I think we can discuss those things, but how well are they hidden from the developments? Is it going to be an asset to our development, or is it going to lower property values? Because that's a serious thing. I really would like to see a full line of cypress trees like my husband has investigated that grow 30 to 50 feet, and they're fast growing. And they cover that wall. And for our property and two other neighbors on either side, we sit up higher. So it wouldn't matter if they built an 8-foot wall, but it does to the other residents down at the other end, because the sound just travels right over. To us that sit up here, full view, full view. And there's no way a gas station should be of a large size or have 24/7 access that with the lights coming into your windows. I can make my fence higher, but then I block my view. I don't want to look down on a gas station, but I can be patient while trees grow. I just think that when we develop, as we should, and we develop respectfully towards each other, that everyone can benefit, us and the town. Another thing that I was very concerned about is I saw all the dwellings, and they called them the dwellings in the last report, was one story only. Because otherwise, what good does a wall do if you're looking right down into their backyard? Like, holy cow. If I were staying at their development, I would want to see what's going on in Desert Gardens. It would interest me. I asked quite a few people. It interested them too. I said, yeah, I'd probably drive around and see what the neighborhood's like. I like it here. Maybe I want to move here. But do you realize that could be up to 100 cars a week driving through our development? That's a lot of road money that's going to have to be taken care of. But it's also a lot of invasive, that's just uncalled for. We already have trouble with trailers, motorcycles, ATVs, trying to come through and get down to the river and pass through. People have had to put up signs of keep off private property, but yet that doesn't disturb them and detour them from coming through and trying to do that. So I appreciate all that's been said ahead of me. I completely agree with all of their points. And I hope that our city council will protect us and have good and proper development that benefits the citizen and the developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori Bachman.
Hi, my name's Charlie Sliger. I'm Lori's neighbor. My property butts right up against what you guys are proposing. And everything they've talked about with the traffic out here is true. 1450 coming into our development, it's a very narrow road. And a lot of times when we try to get out in SR9, we have to wait quite a while. If one car pulls over there, it causes a traffic jam. So aside from all that about the traffic, they're looking at putting 24 little cabins behind us. And I think what you really got to ask yourself is, take a lesson from the Zion RV Resort. I've heard those guys at meetings, they're talking about when they built their resort, they sized it a certain way. And every year the rigs get bigger, the people pull in there, they're towing big things that they never used to have. And they said themselves, if they had to do it over, they'd build it bigger. So like if you're talking about putting 24 cabins on this little dinky spot, not everybody's going to drive up and park in a Prius. They're going to be driving big rigs. Probably the minimum, they'll be driving pickup trucks. And what about when they're towing RVs or ATVs or anything like that? I just don't think it's feasible what these guys are really asking for. You know, I'm not against development. I know something's going to go in. I just think that we really need to kind of plan things out and do it right, because first of all, we only have so much water in this town, and I don't want to see us have to put a sewer system in. That'd be pretty expensive. So that's kind of my concerns, you know. I'm not against people, you know, using their land and selling it, but I just want to see responsible growth. That's all I want. Thank you. Oh, and I wanted to give you a copy of the letter.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Bill Swenson here. Wow, thanks everybody for your comments and input, and thank you for the work you do too, okay? I've been in that chair for a little while and it's a tough job, but we have a lot of concerns and considerations I think should be taken under consideration before this project moves forward, or even this conditional use permit is granted or denied, okay? I think I've been writing down a few bullet points right now. Number one, is this request for a conditional use permit for a service/gas station in the best interest of the entire town and community, not just Desert Gardens? I know when I leave, I call it the Lower Bowl, the big city down there, even Laverican. When I top out up here, I welcome the dark skies. I welcome the rural area. And with a gas station on our doorstep coming in, is it really warranted? And I know you can't say no to a gas station, but you can say no to a conditional use permit, I believe, in this location. Maybe it's warranted at another location. Maybe it's on Kolob Terrace Road, which is already a paved four-way intersection, has a hotel, has major traffic. The park is dumping people up to Kolob like it's the only place left because they can't go to the park. Now they're starting to use Kolob. So what other areas are feasible for a gas station in this town? I'm not against development, but I'm against a gas station being in this location. And primarily probably because, yes, I do live in Desert Gardens, but also because of the entire community. I think there's some, if you've looked at that, if you've shown considerations out there, we'd like to know about it. Maybe there's no other place to put it. There's got to be a place, hopefully in the planning, documents that it could go. So I'd ask you to take that under consideration. The application for request at 1420 and Sheep Ridge Road affects everyone, and especially the Desert Gardens community in a big way. And like we have all stated, I'll state again, the traffic, I don't think any of you live in Desert Gardens. A lot of us do, some don't, but it's tough at times now. The traffic is, thank you for mentioning, people pass in the center lane going down through there. At 55 miles an hour, you're doing 55 or 45 or 50, they're blowing and going, okay? And now we're gonna bring more traffic in, more access to both streets. It's scary at best, okay? So I think I'll get to that little point in a minute here to tail end a few requests from you. Of course, the volume and speed of traffic, the sight distance is already a problem. I mean, you pull out on that road to go westbound and you think you're good to cut into that acceleration lane. Unfortunately, quite a few people blow right across illegally and they're going to get run over, but that's their choice. But those cars come over that hill coming out of this town and they're already doing 60, even though the speed limit is 55. We all know the average percentile is doing 60 plus. So we got problems there right now. Okay, I'd ask these questions. Has a traffic study been completed for this project? Has the town asked the developer, or has the developer submitted any type of traffic study to see what's existing out there right now?
From the development I've been doing, that's all I do know.
That's
You're
what.
not involved on the egress and all that.
Right, but on our city streets, on Sheep Ridge Road, on 1420 West, has there been any traffic study? Like a traffic counter, an average daily, you know? So I know that's UDOT. I've contacted UDOT on this. I understand where they're coming with no access off of the 9 because there are 2 deceleration lanes in there. And it apparently isn't feasible, but maybe something is. Maybe we could sit down and talk with UDOT. Maybe it needs to be another meeting or more, but I don't see the need to rush this, okay? Like Charlie said earlier, and I'm not against development. This is commercial. We know something's going to go in there, but let's do it right. Okay, let's make it fit the community. Let's not just say, okay, yeah, go for a gas station, go for, you know, whatever. No, that's what the planning commission, that's what you do, is look at those things and hopefully help us protect our safety, health, and welfare as a community. It's right there in the guidelines of the Utah League of Cities and Towns book. Your primary purpose is to protect the safety and integrity and health and welfare of the community. Developers come second, okay? This is not a, I won't go any further on that. Okay, a traffic study, I'd like to see that happen. There are currently, as I said earlier last week, there are 50 residential homes, school buses, delivery traffic currently going through that one access right now. So let's get back to the point, if something were to be going in there, please don't permit that access off 1420. It's only going to compound what we already have a problem with. And as someone said, maybe some signage is going to have to be put up. Even if this does go in over there, people are going to park on those naming residential streets. 1420 West is the only residential street. Okay, Sheep Ridge Road is going to be, we all know, it's going to be a collector road, probably at best, especially when it's not if, but when it gets paved. So that is the primary road. Even for this entire commercial development, it should be the primary road. And 1420 West should be dedicated to Desert Gardens. It's the only in and out we have. So suggestions and requests. I'll try to make it short and sweet here. I would ask that you table this request tonight. Okay, if that's something you can do, and turn and reach out to the residents of the community, of the entire community. And of course, Desert Gardens has shown up in mass here, but I think there are some other people that are concerned about the direction we are headed in the entire community. So it is in the best interest for us to meet and discuss all aspects of this request. And it should be initiated by the developer. I'm surprised, is the developer here tonight?
Yes.
Representative? I'm surprised you haven't reached out to the community of Desert Gardens and said, hey, can we talk? You know, we would welcome that, to hear from you and see what your plans are. And you hear from us as well. So I think that is a powerful move. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. So, so I would request that happen. And, you know, the planning and zoning commission, everyone should be there. So if we could do that. And already covered that. So bottom line, is this the right thing for the community to put a service gas station on the forefront of our community coming in? We just put up a beautiful sign that says, you know, Virgin, welcome to Virgin, right down there. Boom, there's a gas station in your face. I'm sorry. A station can go and probably should go somewhere here. But does it really need to be right here on the leading edge of our community? And you got West Temple out there and you got people pulling over and taking pictures. And it's wonderful to see that. We live in a special place. Okay, let's keep it that way. And I appreciate you in helping us do that. So thank you for the time. Okay.
Anyone else, guys? I want to give everybody the chance, even if it's just to say echo, we can do that.
My name is Margaret Cole, and I'm new here. I've only been here about a year and a half. I'm the house right there in the middle, right behind the cabins. So needless to say, I agree with what everyone has said. It's just horrible to think of what this is going to do to our backyard. I mean, I'm right there. I'd like to thank April and Lori and Darlene and, you know, all the work that they did. Everything they said is exactly what I wanted to say. So I just want to agree with them and just let you know there's more of us that don't agree with this at all. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on from that. Okay, so we're going to go on to item number C. Hey, thanks for your comments. Truly, I think it's wonderful. And I think it's great that we get so many comments. That's what we asked for. And thank you so much. So we're going to go on to C, ordinance 2021-22, and ordinance amending chapter 2.12, definitions for corral. If you have any questions, please step up to the hot seat.
Lori Rose, I made a comment when this came up the first time, and there's been some adjustment since then. But quite frankly, I'm trying to figure out what's the problem with the current wording. I would appreciate understanding what this change is intended to accommodate. It makes no sense to me that a change is necessary. So, thank you.
Thank you.
But I do appreciate there was some clarification there, because the problem with the previous one is not here now anymore, I don't think. That one where, because you can't have a corral near other dwellings and roads and such, so. I don't know. We'll see. I don't understand why it's being changed.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Thanks, everybody. So now we're going to move on to item D, which is ordinance 2021-30, an ordinance amending chapter 44, highway resort zone uses. This is bed and breakfast.
Lori Rose. And you're going to hear me repeat this multiple times. So, because there are multiple, or maybe, no, I'll bring it up each time. So this is proposing a change in the highway resort zone, which currently has, I believe, 3 permitted uses and everything else is conditional. The 3 are basically single-family residences, casitas, and what's the third? It's all just residential stuff.
Short-term rentals.
Short-term rental. Okay, good. Thank you, Cameron. So my concern with moving bed and breakfast into permitted uses is that though some people may want to use highway resort zone for commercial developments, other people may very well want to do a short-term rental development or even possibly a regular old subdivision because housing is in such demand right now. And they're looking for locations to be able to provide housing. So that could mean that a bed and breakfast would be a permitted use in a residential neighborhood without any review at all. I agree that bed and breakfasts don't tend to be very complicated, but I don't understand why you would take out the opportunity to review one if it does happen to be proposed in a location that would have impacts on residential properties. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Any further discussion? Okay, so we're going to move on to, now this is ordinance 2021-31, an ordinance amending chapter 44, highway resort zone uses, brewery/winery.
Lori Rose, I warned you.
It's okay.
It's the same thing. It's like you're proposing making it a permitted use. This may be proposed to be located in a place that's perfectly wonderful for that, and a conditional use review process could be quite straightforward. But what if it's proposed in an area that's been developed or has residential properties nearby? It seems that the opportunity to be able to put conditions on it is a small trade-off. Why would you make it a permitted use? When you have specifically allowed residential uses in this zone, it seems like you need to reserve that ability to put conditions on if they're warranted. If they're not warranted, you don't have to put conditions on. It's easy, but you should keep that opportunity available, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
I'd like to echo Lori's thoughts, but also link it back to something Bill Swenson said, Darlene Pope, sorry. And that is the primary responsibility of this committee is to protect our well-being. And I don't see how not having the option, as Lori has just described, does that. I also have a question. Are these being proposed to facilitate the implementation of a specific development or project?
Thank you, Darlene. Okay, any further comments? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is ordinance 2021-32, an ordinance amending chapter 30, uses chart.
Lori Rose, I was having a horrible time trying to sort this out. I suppose I could have printed them off and tried to put them side by side, but it looks like some of the uses chart may have been chopped off.
Yes, so
Yeah.
what we did with this one was we took out the resort zone.
Right, but the open space zone shows up at least in the proposed,
It might have.
and
got
it
cut-
wasn't
it looks like it
in
might
the
have got cut
current.
off on the.
So it's really hard to compare and to go through, and I am learning that these charts are becoming commonly used in ordinances in other areas and can be, in fact, the very primary place that you find out what uses are permitted or conditional in an ordinance. And so there was no color coding to highlight the actual changes, if any changes were being proposed from current wording to proposed wording, other than taking out resort zone.
There was no other changes made.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate hearing that because it was very difficult to sort out.
Yeah, it was chopped off and that's.
Yeah. So if that's the only thing being changed, that's an obvious house cleaning
Yeah. that's-
project.
this one
So
is straight house cleaning. We
fantastic.
can answer that one now.
Thanks. Because my brain was going loop-de-loops. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll go ahead and roll on to item G, which is 2021-33, amending Chapter 44, Highway Resort Zone Uses, Restaurant/Food Truck.
Lori Rose, same thing. This is highway resort zone. You're proposing making it a permitted use. I don't understand why you wouldn't keep it as conditional, like essentially all the commercial uses in highway resort are commercial. Why would you take this commercial use out of the conditional use permit process, make it permitted when it could end up being located in a place that would impact residential properties? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the final item, H, in our public hearing is ordinance 2021-34, an ordinance amending Chapter 44.06 Highway Resort Zone Location. I know, you should have just.
Everybody would be so disappointed if I didn't get it. Lori Rose. So on this one, I didn't attend last meeting, of course, and I think you got a lot of good comment on it. I think it is my understanding that there was mistakes in the description of the location being proposed.
Yeah, it should have said south instead of.
Yeah,
north. I don't know
'cause it
why
was-
doesn't say that today.
It was
Yeah.
focusing on the area of Linda Colette's property, right?
Right, yeah, there's this,
Yeah.
it should have been edited.
So recognizing that typo and just echoing what was said last month, that it's my understanding that this is not what the property owner desires to have happen. So the good news is she's doing much better.
That's great.
It's really amazing. She had a huge turnaround and everybody's prayers were answered, so that's exciting.
We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, thanks.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for item number 2.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to close and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we tabled every single one of these. That's what it says at the beginning of the agenda. So let's begin with discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny possible proposed concept plans for approximately Camino del Rio and SR9. And we're going to limit the comments just to the commission because there are a great deal of items and we want to get through them. We've written down the public hearing questions and we will address them as each item comes up. So, who wants to start the discussion on this? This is a RV park.
You skipped open forum?
I skipped open forum? Okay, timeout, open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone in the public to stand up for 2 minutes and talk about anything that's not on the agenda. So we'll open that time up for the public.
Lori Rose, I just was wondering if you guys could explain how this change to YouTube is supposed to work for folks that really, choose to stay home instead of come to the meeting out of consideration for their health and well-being. I know how to make comments on Facebook since I have a Facebook account, but I have no idea how to participate on a YouTube video. Thanks.
It's a great question. As far as getting on, there's a link attached to the posted agendas as well as the public hearing website. So you just click on it and it automatically will take you to the YouTube videos that you can watch it. Now, I didn't set it up, so I'm not sure, and I don't think anybody on the commission really knows. So I'm going to turn it over to Crystal to answer those questions because that's a housekeeping item in the office.
So with our YouTube page, if you like and subscribe to our page, you'll get notifications each time we go live. And you can just click on it and it will go bring you right to it. However, I'm not sure how long we will be doing this. We are not required to do this. We are not required to have live video feed. So I'm not sure how long that's going to continue.
Might I add that there have been points where the comments from home have been not toward necessarily us, but they have been hateful toward other people. Sorry, I put a piece of chocolate in my mouth, right? And so I'm trying not to show it to you. It was a truffle. So I know that they're trying to limit those comments because none of us are trying to be rude. And though you guys aren't trying to be rude, I know that there are always somebody that will have a comment to say, especially when you open it up to a live broadcast. So they're trying to work on that to try to keep those comments from coming in. We want to keep it valid. And
So on that note, we check with the other towns that are around and they do YouTube as well. It works really great with our new system that we have. You can see, you can hear better. The comments are off due to people can delete the comments and those have to be recorded on public. It's just like you would be up at the stand talking, and people are going in and deleting that. We've had that issue. We've checked with a couple of other cities and towns around, and they do not allow commenting. If you want to comment and you are unable to make, they require you to bring in a letter. And so we're kind of just following suit. We find that it's a little bit easier because of the comments, and if people are deleting them, we have no way to get that on record. So that's kind of been the issue a little bit. We've seen a couple of comments go away after they've been posted, so it's really hard for us to get those on the record and then stated. If you want your voices to be heard, you might have said something upset or whatever, and then went back and deleted it, and it's no longer there. So we're just following suit with what the rest of Bergen and Silverville and everybody else is doing, and as far as with our new setup that we have here allows us to do the YouTube live. So hopefully, if it's still continuing, I'm not sure if it's continuing with town council. As of now, I know town council will not be having live videos. As far as planning and zoning, we get to figure that out today if we're continuing this on YouTube or not. But I will let you guys all know, and I will let you guys keep everybody informed with my town emails and stuff, and I hope everybody does it. If you're not on the town email list, please come to me, get me your email so I can get it on there, okay?
A quick follow-up question then. And I appreciate that, Crystal, thank you. And, sometimes, and I know the town still has COVID hours, so to speak, our office days are limited, your office days are limited. And even though it's not put out in the agenda, the word's been getting out to folks that you're asking for emailed comments for a Wednesday meeting by Monday. Can we still, if we don't want to spend the time in the building, can we bring hand-delivered comments to the meeting?
Sorry, the only reason why we've asked, and we have talked with several people about this today, if it's okay to have that a couple of days down. Several towns also do that as well. We need time to, I copy and give every one of these guys letters, and they read them before they come to these meetings. I also make sure it's uploaded in our doc system here. So it takes a little bit to make all these copies and making sure they all have it, and they've had time to read it. So when I say Monday, they have Tuesday to read it, so it's ready by Wednesday for our meeting.
Well, I understand that, but this is a public hearing, and most comments you don't get in advance. Anyway, they're being presented to the board. So I don't see why we would be limited if we felt the need for whatever our own circumstances are, to drop off a letter, if we weren't able to get it done by Monday, because sometimes people's schedules just are complicated. But if we, it's not necessarily this happening every time, but that opportunity exists to bring it in and have it read into the minutes would be really appreciated.
If you want to come and drop a letter off and make sure that I've got copies, so I can hand it out to them by the time they start, and they can read it. I mean, what's your guys' thought on the commission?
Yeah, I mean,
That's kind of a commission thing.
you
so.
can send one with Lori. Lori can send one with Lori.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can, those type of things, that's not hard prevention. We
Yeah.
just wanted the emailed ones and things, if we can get a heads up, that's great. So
Yes.
we can go over it, because we do love to take in your consideration, your comments.
Yeah.
However, it is a public hearing, and those are allowed to come in right as they come in.
Yeah.
But it's just an easier organization way, so they're not missed.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to miss anybody's comments.
Yeah.
So if they're missed,
Yeah.
it's just a prevention.
Yeah.
To keep it from being missed. So if you do want them done, please hand deliver them to the office.
Yeah.
Or have a neighbor bring them in if they're coming, or whatever, but that way they're not missed.
Okay.
That was the main goal in my, with my
Good.
goal of it, was to make sure we got those letters and nobody.
That helps to understand, and we can help like bringing copies like
Right,
that.
yeah, and if you bring copies and pass them out, then it saves us time of having to go and do it, or me reading the letter and then during the meeting having to go, here, Cameron. And
Yeah,
it looks
pass,
really
pass,
bad
pass.
if I have to pass a piece of paper
Yeah.
around to everybody,
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if we could do that, that would be awesome. But
Okay.
yeah, no, that's the reason for those.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and go on to the public meeting. Just making sure, because I'm forgetful. Let's start with item A for the Camino del Rio at SR9. Let's just start with Sean and then just kind of.
Clarification question.
Sorry, can you make sure that mic's on? Just need to talk to the mic, because our live video is going through the mic, that's the only sound they hear it. Okay?
So, question on this. It says on the agenda, it's a concept plan. So we're not approving any conditional use. We're just approving a concept plan, right?
To move forward to request.
Why?
Why are we approving a concept plan? I don't know why they didn't submit the whole conditional use application concept. I think he wanted the concept plan before he spent lots of money in engineering.
Conditional use plans and when they pass
So-
a concept plan, it really says that's when the ordinances have to go through, or the plans have to go through an engineer and attorneys.
Cost of development.
Right.
So
So
concept plan technically could be written on a napkin if you have all the elements that we have written down in the law there. So I'm just wondering, but once we go to that stage of, once we go to the stage of a conditional use permit, then we have a whole bunch more steps. That's the difference between the gas station today and this development. So all we're determining is it feasible for him to do basically what he's doing? Is that right? Okay, that's all I wanted to do is clarify that. And then he's going to bring all the rest of the information when he does the conditional use permit.
Yeah, and we
Right.
can give him some heads up on this, like, if we think there's things that, if we have felt there are things and conditions we would like added, we can send those on to town council as well. With these, that's what this opportunity is for as well, because you can see them without, you can see problems without even having a plan. If there's just a concept idea, you can see things that we can see things that might need to be addressed, so that's.
Mhm.
So that's what we're doing. We're not required to do them, but it's handy to have them done, so. Cameron, do you have anything?
No, I have nothing.
Nothing? You guys have anything you want to add to this? Okay, now I know that when,
Just this way. Put that one that way so you can talk into it.
all right,
There we go.
we'll figure all this out. Okay, so just to address some of what Lori was discussing, that, and you're familiar with our processes, very familiar. So they are going to address 90% of that in the concept plan. When we come back through here, we will address it. There is a small amount that, of course, that will be done by Rod Mills, our engineer, and I know our attorney looks at things like this, and staff, Jean and the staff will take care of that. So just so you know, this all will be addressed in the conditional use permit. So don't feel like we're just going and pushing it on. That, I don't know. We can ask for those to be required in the floodplains. Right.
Big impacts.
Mhm.
And Larry could hear those exactly how this
Right.
works. Somebody can say whatever they say. And Stu, in the recording last meeting, was real clear. He has no clear idea of every detail of his perspective.
Right.
So I'm just leading as one of the owners that could be impacted, that if there's fill in the floodplain, that the impacts are evaluated, and that none of that is just allowed without that, because this is such a sensitive area and very critical of our functioning.
Gene had his hand up. Are you wanting to address Laura's comment?
So once we have engineered plans and full design of what Stu is going to do, it will go to our town engineer first to look at, and it will be sent out to a third-party engineering group, probably Ensign, for complete review. So they address all that stuff and then put the requirements back on Ferber to say, look, you got to bring the land up or you've got to armor it. He'll have to work with the Army Corps engineers and or FEMA, depending on what he decides to do down at that river level. But that's all kind of done within the staff. What we're trying to do, bringing it here, is just to let people know this is coming. And if you have concerns regarding, noise or whatnot, that can be addressed. But the actual engineering stuff is kind of done at a staff level with these groups. So we don't usually address that at this level because the commission, myself, we don't know those details. We're not educated in that stuff. So those questions really be best for Rod, and he can tell you kind of what they're looking to do.
Well, and I know that there's clearly the kind of engineering. You see how close the trailer pads are to the river. As and you know that area, and how wide the is. Already he has done some of the and no study was required. So this has substantial potential impact.
I can't speak to that because that's the past. I can only tell you how we do it now, so.
Those things, you're more than welcome to, this letter's also going to the staff because you wrote it and they'll see it as well. But in this meeting, we're not going to address those because this is a concept plan, not an in-depth one. So at this point, I think we're just I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and write a letter to Gene or go and talk to Gene. He's more than open to talk. I know that. Or Rod. Rod's sitting right there across from you. He'd probably be happy to discuss that with you as well. And Laura, yeah, and Lori, I don't want to cut you off. We need to roll on with that because
That was Cameron.
Cameron was pounding on the table. So he shushes people too. So. Okay, so anybody else have any comments? Sean?
Okay, so we're talking feasibility.
Right.
He's talking RV park and a couple of buildings out front to service that RV park. The landscaping, obviously it'll have all the other elements, the lighting, signage and all that when it comes to conditional use permit. The bridge thing will be addressed by engineers. So as far as feasibility, it's in the proper zone for that. Location is good. Traffic will be an issue that we'll have to address later, but I'm pretty sure he's aware of that. The other thing would be density. I think that's already been addressed, but the layout looks pretty good. And as far as density, I'm pretty sure though, this won't be, as obviously isn't the final plan.
No.
So that will be addressed as they move forward and we'll see a final plan with the conditional use.
Cameron?
So I asked about density because that, as drawn right there, is too dense. But this project does include property on the other side of the river, which will remain undeveloped as the open space to make up for that density.
How many acres?
I can't remember exactly how many there were, but
43.
43. There you go, 43 acres. A lot of that is on the other side.
Yeah. Anything else? I concur with Sean. Does anybody else have any comments on this? And if not, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the concept plan for approximate Camino del Rio and SR9 with the conditions that they follow all city town ordinances and obtain approval from the town engineer before starting any construction.
Okay, Cameron has a motion, and it's for the concept plan.
I didn't say concept plan?
Oh, he did? Okay. Second by Karen? He did. Thank you for the confirmation. All right, any other further discussion within the commission? Okay, Sean?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Karen?
Yes.
Dean?
No.
Okay, no from Dean. Okay, so now we are on to item B, which is the discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny a proposed concept plan with conditional use permit for the gas station at approximately SR9 and Sheep's Bridge Road. Who wants to start in on that one? I'll look for the comments. So, Pat Galvez, his question was, why are the two entrances and why is there not an entrance off of SR9?
Misty, can I just make one quick comment? I appreciate the public who has stayed to actually listen to our discussion. Most of the questions from last time were answered after everyone left. And so it's good that you hear our answers and not just come and tell us what you want us to do and then don't listen. So I appreciate you staying here. I really do. So thank you.
Thank you. Because this question was addressed last meeting,
Yes.
but we'll address it again.
Pat wasn't at the meeting last week.
Yeah, just shortly we'll address it again because it was a repeated question today. UDOT's letter, help me remember what it said. I have to get it out of my file. It's, they said that it was not possible to have another entrance off of SR9.
So I have their letter right here. If
Okay.
you'd like me to read it.
Would you read it for me? I have the short one. Huh? I have this small one. Is this it right here? No, is that it?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Then you have a different letter.
This is the email that was sent to the town from UDOT. It says, UDOT has had a lot of comments, concerns about the development between 1420 West and Sheeps Bridge Road, adjacent to SR9 in Virgin, Utah. UDOT met with the developer and engineer on site and discussed potential access directly to SR9. The additional access will not be granted based off of, one, access spacing for the area is 1,000 feet. And two, it would be unsafe to add additional accesses in between two public streets. That's what they said.
Okay,
UDOT's kind of the final
they are, we can't,
arbiter of SR9.
we can request it, but they are in charge of it. Okay, so that should answer several of the questions that we have addressed in the public hearing. Sean?
Last time we also addressed the issue of traffic study.
The lights, like. Sean?
I think most everybody is very concerned about traffic, especially on the highway itself. And speed studies and all that stuff. Can we have Gene again answer what they're doing about that? And maybe, I don't know if Rod knows about.
For the
that as
traffic
well.
study? Is
Yes.
that what you're talking about? We have a question regarding the traffic study for the new development on SR9 down by.
Okay, so I'm somewhat in the dark on where it's at, but I know that DOT came out, and I don't know if Rod met with them at that point, but they came out and met with Matt for sure, discussed doing a traffic study for the entire length of Virgin. Because there's enough stuff coming in that we want to get one of those that can hold in place for like a decade. So I'm not sure what the status of it is. Maybe Rod knows better than I do, but I know that that's been discussed.
So status-wise, once UDOT made the decision that is in my computer, they're sort of out of it. So it's more up to us. So UDOT has concluded that it's unsafe to make an entrance directly onto SR9. As a result of that, the access ways for this development will not impact their program. So we need to decide on our end what studies we're going to need to do to make sure that the flowways that are presented are reasonable and equitable.
Thank you, Rob. That's your question.
Yeah.
Tom?
For now.
For now, yes. Okay. That was all for nothing. We all heard it. Everybody heard it. Okay. So Cameron, you have any comments on this other than that? On let's just, right now, we're just talking about SR9 and the two entrances. Do you have any comments,
Oh,
you guys?
they asked why there was two entrances, because
Yeah.
there has to be two entrances.
Yeah. So I just didn't know if you guys, when
Someone
I asked
asked
what you
one.
have, if you have any more comments as to things to add, because it takes all of us.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
On those entrances, would we be able to put conditions on the use of that 1420 as make it a secondary, so restrict the size of it or some kind of limited use on that one as well? Is that in our purview of?
I know requires two exits. I don't know what the size, usually they got a certain size.
I don't think we can
Fine.
restrict that.
Right, so not restrict, but would we be comfortable in putting some kind of condition where that is at least designated as only a secondary and not, I mean, they've got to have the exit. They've got to have it as an entrance.
I like what you built, but you really can't do
Mhm.
Who says that we need two exits?
You got
And fire,
Saying that UDOT says that.
and fire code.
And as well as fire.
where it is.
All places have to have, they have to have two exits.
So all of Desert Garden has one entrance.
You have an emergency exit as well. You
Yes.
just may not know about it.
You're talking about that. But
It could be, but that's
it's
your
a crash
second
gate.
entrance.
that is not an easement. That's
Sure.
somebody's driveway.
Put a gate up.
Quick question. You brought that up, the two benches, and UDOT says that you can't have it. Does that mean that you, as a city, couldn't make it on the street?
No. There's no, we can't, we lose it after there's a 50-foot buffer or whatever, we lose.
What?
Working stuff.
Okay, so we're gonna keep these comments here. We're trying to address them all.
Is your microphone working still?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why you
Just
couldn't
can't
do two exits off Sheep Ridge Road.
I think the problem with two exits off Sheep's Ridge Road is it's not deep enough to have two exits. And if they had a problem with anything at the service station, that would block block both exits. I mean, if they had a problem at the service station and you had people in the cabins or people in the store, they need a different way out other than past the service station.
That would be a total fire determination by the fire department, right? Okay. And that can be determined by the fire, by whoever inspects it from Hurricane Valley.
So all those buildings will be sprinkled.
That just says what's on there, but
I imagine.
I imagine.
No, it says it.
Yeah, if it says it on there, then I imagine that it will continue through.
So they two exits to the back here, they try not to have two exits to down.
Okay, we're gonna, I can't answer those questions. They're not on, those were all done before me. So let's go ahead and pull it back to the commission. Who wants to go first? You guys, you wanna, that was the only one I really wanted to start off with because it was multiple, it was mentioned multiple times that I have on my notes. So anyone else want to kick this off? It's not my main discussion, it's everyone's.
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you.
Just as another word, again, clarification for the public as well as for what we do. The council is, servant to the public. We are servants more to the law. What is on the law, we got to make sure that these guys, as the developers, are following. The laws have been put together. We do recommend them, but they're passed by the council. The laws, you can't just pick and choose which ones we want to have them adhere to or not, but you also have to make sure that you're using the right law. So I do appreciate the comments that were brought up, addressing the laws of both the commercial zone as well as some of the other ordinances we have. The one that was missed was our conditional use zone, which clearly states exactly what we as a commission need to do, and almost in some ways gives us a checklist that we need to review, to go through, and pretty much answer all of these issues, and also give us some guidance in mitigating. If the public is unaware, there's a specific section in Chapter 16, which is our conditional use section, which goes over automobile service stations. And it covers pretty much all the questions that were brought up tonight. There was only a couple on there that that weren't asked by the public, and I made sure that we'll get those asked, okay? And again, as clarification, we've got a concept plan, but we also have a conditional use
permit being requested. So part of it is concept plan. Is it feasible? And then one specific part of that is conditional use. And we have to be able to separate that as a body and be able to say, is this feasible? And is this little section here okay for a conditional use permit if we mitigate all the concerns?
Let's get to it.
Okay.
This is why I go volleyball no on concept plans, is because I can't tell you if this is feasible because there are no measurements on the driveway, there are no measurements on the parking lot. So I think it's good that people come in and get questions answered, but I don't believe in voting on a concept because concepts can radically change.
So in
I can't, I can't even
Sorry.
tell you if all these parking spaces are legal right now. So I don't believe in improving concepts. I don't know why we do it. I think it's a good idea to have people come in and say, this is what I want to do, and get this comment process going. But to approve a concept, I don't understand that concept because there's a lot of things I can't verify in this plan.
Thank you, Dan.
So agreed, but in our law, it says in chapter 16, we get to go through the development plan, and it tells us exactly what should be included in that development plan. We just have to make sure that that's there. So we're not approving the whole development. We're just saying.
There's really no point in what we're doing because you don't need to approve.
You're right, and that's why typically it goes only to the zoning administrator and staff. And they do that, but this,
The planning commission should put the burden on the developer to bring in. Everywhere else I build, I can't do this. I have to bring in a real plan. I got no problem with someone coming in and saying, I want to run this through the planning commission and the public so I get some public input to make changes. But St. George might vote on this. I mean, because there's nothing to vote on because there's no measurement.
St. George would take this through their staff, and all those things would be taken care of really before it comes to us. We unfortunately are a small town.
Architect to bring a plan with
Yeah.
all the measurements.
When-
That's what St. George, that's what
Okay.
Springdale requires.
Okay, just a minute. Go ahead.
So I think you're 100% correct on that, Dean. The difference is with St. George is they have a clear permitted use. When they get done with all those architectural plans, yeah, they might have to make some changes and tweaks, but they're going to get to build the building and the project. Here in Virgin, they don't have that clear route to a project.
Give you a good example in one property. I was on the planning commission back then, and a concept came before us. And we were to approve the concept. Well, the plan, what got developed was nothing to do with the concept. So I support the idea of reviewing it. I support the idea of giving public comment, but I can't vote on it. I can only approve a conditional use permit once I see everything drawn out.
Okay. Yeah, but currently we have to, so we need to, because our ordinance clearly states we have to. So let's start doing that. Sean, were you finished with some of your comments? You can jump back in anytime.
I would propose we go through those steps in that there's a level 1 CUP, which the zoning administrator goes over, level 2 CUP, which we are the body who covers that. Maybe even requests comment from zoning administrator and maybe staff about what they have already reviewed that we may not have besides the letters that we've read that might fill in the gaps already. And then we can go through the, in 16.16, the general CUP review criteria. It's basically a checklist of all the things we need to go through, and we can discuss each item as we go, and it will answer every single one of these questions without having to address each
Which
one
section?
over and over
16
again.
did you want to start in?
16.16.
Okay, let's get that, let's start that so we can. Okay. A is the application complies with the town. Did they comply with everything with the town for the application as far as we're aware? Okay. Generally compatible with the surrounding structure. So B, does anyone have any questions on B? Structure. Yeah, this, we're just gonna keep this with this, but we'll say it so you can hear us. The structures, buildings, and improvements associated with the use are generally compatible with the surrounding structures of the zone in terms of use, scale, mass, and circulation.
Okay.
This is for the CUP review, though. We're going.
This is a CUP.
Oh, yeah.
review.
This
one
is a CUP review.
I'm sorry, back on
So-
CUP. I thought you were starting with
No.
the, because you said we need to separate the two.
Right. So this is a question of, is this use proper in this zone?
Well, she said something else about buildings.
Is it,
Read that again.
The structures, buildings, and improvements
I
associated.
can't compare structures, they have no measurements on the structure.
Okay.
They only have
If
square
you go
footage.
back and look at what needs to be submitted, the planning commission has every right to ask the developer for more information.
yes,
There's a list of
please.
what these things need to be provided, which many of them were not, and in addition, the planning commission can ask for any additional information it needs in order to evaluate your proposal.
Thank you.
Yes, and that's in the law right here. We're getting to it. Please, let us do our job, okay? And then if there's anything beyond that, you can bring that up. And that's what we're trying to say is.
That's what
is-
we're going to do right now. Thank you. Okay, so if we go off of these, and I've reviewed these, have anybody else reviewed these questions that if we need to go directly through each question, have any of you reviewed these?
Yes.
So everybody's looked at these, right? You've all looked at these? Okay, so I'm just gonna say A, which is the application, check, right? B is kind of left out. What do you guys think about B? Let's start with Sean. Structures in the buildings. We know what Dean has said. He can't make a judgment.
Okay, it says of the zone. So are the buildings compatible with what would be in the zone? Right now, there's no other buildings in that particular zone, in that particular location. Would they can be compatible?
Well,
Compatible with the zone.
With the zone,
So would it be compatible with the same, so if you compare it to other uses in that zone, you're looking at Fort Zion,
right. That's why I was just
you're
gonna
looking
say
at
there's businesses right now
Buffalo Trails, and that would be the only other
George's
two.
Restaurant.
George's
that are
Restaurant.
right close and
And this is where it gets hard for me because compatible means elevations,
right.
drawings.
So some of,
I get the process, but if I'm reading what we're gonna approve, we are gonna approve the conditional use.
some of that stuff is already dictated to us in the ordinance, right? So in the ordinance, building size is set, it's set at 22 feet max for this zone.
Yeah.
In the zone, it dictates the size of the building cannot be more than 3,000 square feet unless a bonus is granted. And then it goes through a specific list of bonuses granted. So in my opinion, B is settled because it's already been written down and put into, we don't have the exact specifications of his building, but we know what those specifications have to be. We know
Yes.
the max height, we know the max size, and he has provided the square foot size, but we know what the maximum size of the building can be.
And then those standards are written again in,
Yes.
down further in the automobiles,
Service station.
service station standards, they're already met. So I think B is going to be met by this, our
Yeah.
own ordinances will meet that.
Yeah, if he drew on that map a 40,000 square foot building and he wants to put everything in there and convenience store, it wouldn't match the zone. And we'd know that, and we'd say, go back and redo your concept plan.
So let's go,
They're gonna ask you, the person submitting it has met that requirement, not what the town is expecting.
So,
the town expects it to begin
yeah,
with.
one more comment. Okay. The other thing we are doing is we're not approving specifically the exact measurements of building elevation. We're approving conditional use. So the use is going to be different than the actual construction of all this stuff, okay? So again, is the use compatible in that zone? And the use, can we mitigate any adversary issues about it? Okay, so it's the use, not specifically the building and where it is and how it plays, it's the use. Okay,
All right,
sorry.
so C, well, B, does everybody in general feel like by the ordinances and the things that we require in our set standards, if we're gonna meet that? I feel like they're gonna be required to meet that anyway, and the staff will make sure of that, engineering. So let's go on. Everybody ready to move on to C, which is the use is not determined, or is not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. Who wants to comment to that?
So, in the comments last time about police and
Yeah, we
you
met
made
most of
comments
those
last time,
comments
Cameron,
last time
about
UDOT controlling the traffic, they're not controlling,
The
but doing a traffic
crime.
study. And the crime,
Cameron made a good comment last time. I think it needs to be addressed again.
What was it?
It was great.
I
It
know,
was
some
something
was
about, we
wonderful.
don't have the control
And it
of
was
that.
gone.
That's- We
No,
can
about-
hire more staff.
Crime, somebody was saying there'd be more crime in the community, residential area around there. And you said, well, the statistics actually show that the crime happens at a facility and not particularly in the community. That's different. So,
Okay, so you feel like, and we addressed it last.
so as far as community,
Feel like that-
protecting community, are we doing that? Is this use going to raise that crime rate? Is it going to?
Is this use going to raise the crime rate more than any other type of use in this? That's how I would look at it. Does having a gas station there cause more crime than having a
Mom and pop shop?
a hotel, which is also a conditional use in this zone?
Yes. and so-
Or would it bring in more crime than a bed and breakfast, which is also a conditional use in this zone?
And short-term rentals. And short-term rentals are a condition as well in this zone. So
Say again?
I said short-term rentals are as well, are a use in this zone. So
If they're short-term rentals, we don't
if
know
they
if they're
cause more
short-term
problem,
rentals.
and we just have to decide if we feel like they are comparable.
This,
This is the time for us to place the conditions. And we're trying to discuss them. We are trying to discuss them. So that's what we need in this time, or we will never get through this to get these done to where we can determine if this can be moved on to the council or not.
Actually-
So that's why we don't accept the comments right now. Thank you.
But you're talking among yourselves and we can't hear you.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
talk more into the microphones.
We can
Yeah,
talk.
yeah, you can, raise your hand and say, talk louder, please.
So-
That you can do, I totally will do
Right,
that.
but
We'll
we
talk
also
louder.
can't hear when there's chatter.
Discussions going on within the room, it's a very echoey room.
But I just have to
So-
say our concerns are not.
We haven't even.
We're
reviewed them yet.
not finished.
We haven't
Please.
reviewed them yet.
So if
Okay, let's continue on.
detrimental to the public,
Yes.
I think has to be looked at in context with the zone, right? Because I can also say that my neighbor building a house is next to mine is also detrimental to me.
Correct, because it can block.
So we
your
have to look at the uses of the zone and just, and see if this use in this zone is more detrimental to the public than other uses within the zone.
Yeah, so we have to.
Because otherwise, this condition, someone could come next to me and want to put in a subdivision, and I say that, well, that's detrimental to my health because all these people are gonna move in here, and with more people comes more crime. So it's detrimental to my health and safety, this subdivision is. Right? So we have to take this detrimental to the public health and safety and welfare, we have to take it into context with the zone. Not just, anything that happens can be detrimental to the health and public safety.
Correct.
So what would be the,
So we have to decide what we can actually control being detrimental and try to control, like the traffic going through UDOT, and that's their road. So we have to have them complete a traffic study with Virgin that's already happening. As the engineer,
no, that's just that.
as our staff, would you please make a comment to this to help us kind of, it seems like we're all at odds at the table.
So when you take it all the way back to county director, earlier about, you can't approve a concept plan. And I tend to agree with a lot of what was said there, but I was also a party to the discussion about the problems with bringing developments to any given entity. And I have a lot of experience with a lot of entities. And how far do you require somebody to go to get some feel for whether they're, and you're using the word reasonable or feasible. And I think that's a reasonable standard. I do believe that the intent of the way we wrote this was, in fact, to give our developers some feedback associated with their plan at the concept level so that it would be potentially more compatible at the construction and design phase once we really have to dig into it and clear the slate and make sure that it meets all the requirements. So the kind of feedback that you guys are talking about, I think is totally appropriate. And there have been some issues that have been brought up that I think have merit. I'll just cite one. We talked about the access. We know that UDOT will not accept access onto SR9. So we have two accesses that meet the requirements, but look at how close they are to SR9 in both cases. And the whole discussion about ingress, you can't manage that. And that was correctly stated. It's dangerous for us to get ourselves in a situation where we're saying, well, can we control that by widths or whatever? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And that's not my arena, but I just know from the engineering side, my job is to help you deliver a safe, reasonable project. And I'm not really sure that we've 100% addressed that issue. Having said that, we should be discussing that. That's the whole point of the way we set this up. Developer, community, planning commission, let's figure that one out. Does that issue raise to a level that you would want to make some other action? I don't know. That's your job. That's actually precisely what you're supposed to do, is figure that part out. But I think there are, in this particular case, some real issues relative to safety, from my perspective,
I've looked at this several times and I don't know that I can completely offer any remedies either, particularly once we got UDOT to cut off the notion that they can have their own access to SR9. I think what can be done is pretty limited, but it ought to be looked at because I'm not super thrilled about how close either one of these two accesses are to SR9. And how do you queue the traffic between those locations as people are coming in and out? And as we also pointed out, you can't control the size of vehicles or any of that kind of stuff.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So I see, I see the closeness of that. But then the concern of the community is they don't want the traffic closer to them either.
I heard that too.
So if we try to remedy that situation by moving the entrances back, then we create another problem for the community. But even if the uses, yeah, and there's a hill which would have to be cut down more, which the community doesn't want to.
Right.
Additionally, no matter what use you put in there, they're all going to have that same problem just because of the dimensions of the lot.
And that is true.
So I don't know how you remedy that for any project, let alone this one.
I totally agree. I think what I would argue is there any possible way to simplify this in such a way that allows for the traffic circulation? I don't know, to be more simple, I guess is how I would put it.
I know the community doesn't want, they think the traffic being closer to them is a bad thing, but in actuality, flow is gonna be a better thing.
It will be.
Because if they don't move that road back, that driveway back some, you're never gonna get access to the main road. You're just gonna be constantly blocked by cars coming in and out. If you move it back, then it gives more time for you to get in cars to get in line. But if it's right there, cars are gonna pull out, it's gonna be a constant traffic jam. You're just gonna be watching all those cars in front of you.
So is that a condition that you propose that we place on this?
So thank you for that.
Not say that and not have
My
a
condition
standpoint.
proposed is, I'm not opposed to the gas station. But I am opposed to throwing out a conditional use right now, there's so many issues. And this is the hard part of being a developer. Someone's either got to really love their project and put the money into it and hire the architects and engineers to figure this stuff out. And then bring to it. If our town ordinance is that way Sean's explaining, I think it's a backward ordinance, it should be fixed. Because no, I'm sorry, I'm a builder, Sean. There's nowhere I go where I cannot bring a little piece of paper like this in any town and get conditional use.
I said it was worse.
I have to bring a plan in addressing these things.
So are you suggesting you want to go ahead and motion to deny? I mean, this is.
My vote's just gonna be no, because I'm not against the project. I want to be clear. I think there's, in my philosophy, there's private property rights on both sides of the issue. The person that owns the land has the right to develop, the people that live behind it have rights for concerns too. And you can't just pick one or the other, you have to work out the details. So I'm not against the use, but I am kind of against this process.
Okay, Gene?
I just want to throw this in so you'll understand. And having sat on commission just like you, I fully understand where you're coming from. But the flip side is, other than you, probably no one else at that table is qualified to look at those plans and understand what they're looking at.
Well, it's not a plan.
Right, it's a concept, but I'm saying a engineered drawing, most people don't know how to look at. I don't even know that well. I'm learning, but the professionals and the staff are the ones that do it.
We have an engineer here to help us interpret.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the town has standards that are designed to box in a specific thing. So the permitted uses, those permitted uses are boxed in by height, by buffering, by all these other requirements. Their septic is very highly monitored. All that stuff is kind of baked into our ordinances. So what we're looking from the commission on is, okay, besides, you guys all should know our ordinance, and if you don't, we're here to help with that. But the ordinances define the basics, and then you guys look at the mitigating circumstance and say, okay, obviously there's a residential community behind it. They're required to have a wall, but doesn't specify how tall. Let's put the condition on how tall the wall should be. Or as Mrs. Boffman suggested, we are going to put a condition that says they need to grow fast-growing trees that will quickly block off the view from that residential community. To me, that's kind of the purpose of the commission, is to take the stuff outside the box. Because the ordinances clearly define 90% of the buildings and the bufferings and the septic, and the ingress egress will be addressed, by professional people, not just Rod. That's why it goes out to a third party group to look at that stuff. It becomes dangerous, in my mind, it becomes dangerous when we turn from and this may offend people, and I'm sorry, but when we turn from a representative government to a complete democracy. 5,000 heads in Congress don't seem to get anything done. So you hire professionals to take care of that stuff, and we get the right questions asked, but the community cannot be involved in every single step or it never gets done. That's kind of where I'm coming from. And so don't take that bad. That's just what I'm saying.
This part here, then why even bring in drawings? Just come here and say, I want a conditional use for a gas station. Why even vote on a concept? Because a concept means nothing. That's all I'm saying is, if you're saying that we're just approving conditional use, why even vote on a concept? Just say, can the guy have a gas station or not?
So are you saying that we would be better if we didn't have this concept plan to vote on the gas station?
I think it'd be better if people spent their money and came with proper designs.
Oh, okay.
At least with measurements and know if the driveways are the right width, and if the road meets the fire department. I mean, that's what I've had to spend my money to do things. I've never come to a town with just a drawing.
Okay.
I've come to a town, so I think we need to be looking at doing our ordinances, because if it's just Dean's thing, we're just approving, the conditional use to have a hairdressing salon, the conditional use, then don't bring in drawings, just say, I'm coming here because I want a gas station, and then we'll do all the stuff later down the road.
Rod?
So if I may, a lot of that is, I think we concur with all of that in concept. What we're trying to achieve here is more what Gene was discussing, and I think he hit the target pretty well. We wanted to have a place somewhere in the process where some dialogue can be had that helps everyone, the community, the planning commission, and for heaven's sakes, the guys and gals who ultimately have to make the hard decision at the council level. The whole idea behind this was to help guide that process, to have some interaction between the developer, the planning commission, the community, and all of that. And I don't think there's anything broken about that.
I totally support that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do understand that aspect of it.
We're totally going off the rails.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
we need to do is, I agree with your comments and Jean's comments as well. We have this pretty well covered by the standards. These are to listen to our public, to our staff, so that we can take things and plug it in. So let's get that done. I have a million pages and I want to get to each question on here. So let's not derail. Let's start out and get this done. And I feel like we'll go back to C and address what we can in C. I do agree that a lot of the ordinances that are written, if you go through and if you take the time to actually read the standards, that's where we want to go ahead and put something else if it's not already there, such as the things that Cameron mentioned that are already put in the ordinance. The gas stations are not just done by our commission, they're federally mandated. And I know that seems like it's little bits because they're just doing little things. No, they're going to keep it from exploding. I don't want to be in the middle of exploding. That's not my specialty. I don't have a specialty on it. I'm sitting on this commission to help the voice. So let's get in this, get it done. Item C. We'll start on this end and move our way to this end.
And if we have specific conditions that we want them, tell
This
us
is what
what
we're
we
doing.
want. Tell us what we need.
Right. So-
Also, 16.18 gives us the specific criteria that we can put conditions on. So that's also a good guideline.
All right, well, let's
for
start
us
with this
as well.
top one, because that was
No,
requested to go
absolutely.
through there. So let's start with C. Is there, within our ordinances, is there anything additional that you guys feel we should add to that? Because the
Okay.
traffic study is going to be addressed in E, so I don't want to talk about the traffic right now. Because
Right.
that will be addressed when we get to E.
So-
No need to repeat it twice.
Go
So
down.
should we go to D?
We're on C.
We're on C
I
right
know.
now.
And then go down to the next one, standards, the safety of people and or property. And then there's the specific conditions that we can talk about. And then those will cover,
Okay, we'll get those next. So let's roll back up. So I don't feel like in this section, there's anything that that we won't be met by ordinance in this particular section.
I think there's a few things that we can do to address these.
There are, but they're
So
also
you
being
want,
addressed here. So
I
we
will
have
give you some
traffic here.
specific recommendations that I have thought about to address the health and safety,
Okay, so
especially
let's
specifically the safety. As I went over there. So it's already not a 24, the store hours are dictated in the ordinance from 11 to 4. That's store hours.
Right.
Is that pump hours?
It just says store hours. It doesn't say that on
That's up
pump.
to us.
do you know how many pumps there are?
So here was some things that
It's not a
I,
big,
in going over what causes crime and what can be detrimental with these service stations. The big one is not being 24 hours. So we've already got that one covered. It's not 24 hours on our ordinance.
So do
Okay.
you want to make the pumps not 24
Here,
in your condition?
I don't think so. Here are some things that I think, some conditions that we should put on them. All right, no sell goods or merchandise except for the ice, firewood, and propane can be stored outside the building.
those,
The next one, because we want to keep people away from the store at night, no vending machines or ATMs located outside the building. Number 7, because we want it to stay clean and looking nice, which reduces crime. Number 7 should be graffiti or vandalism must be removed or rectified within 2 business days.
Okay.
And to help ensure that, that the people that are on this property stay on this property and they don't wander around the fence in the back, the sound wall. A 6-foot privacy fence should be placed on the east and west side from the southern property line to the ingress egress.
Is that beyond the sound wall?
So wherever the ingress and egress is on each side, from that point back to the sound wall should also have a fence. So that would be my suggestions for C.
only 6 foot?
I think 6 foot is adequate.
Okay.
Civil engineers say 8%.
This is the privacy fence on the.
On the
but I'm
sides.
I'm more than open to having it be more than, I was,
This is
Also
in
working-
addition to this sound wall.
yeah, this is not the sound wall
So
on the
the
back.
sound wall would be first, and then this would be a privacy.
On the east and
fence,
west
Just
side.
on the east and west side. Right. We're talking about just a privacy wall at those parts. We already have, the sound wall is something different.
She gets that. She's saying
Right.
she doesn't like that condition. She
Okay.
thinks that the west side should be a sound wall, not just. a
Oh,
privacy
not just a
fence.
privacy fence. Gotcha. Okay. But if they could just count that with the sound wall.
They could make it a
just
sound wall.
Expand the sound wall to go out on that, but that would be their call. Okay, gotcha. Next.
That's what I have.
Does anybody
That's
else-
the suggestions that I have for.
Those are good. Does anyone else want to address any special conditions for C? Which is the welfare. I think those are good suggestions and we can beat those out when we get to them.
Safety lighting will have to be addressed. I think we can do that. I think it's down further
There
for
it is, it's right
lighting.
here, here.
But lighting
There's quite a few of
specific,
these that are addressed in
Right.
this
Uh-huh.
down here. just need to
specific,
get to them.
yeah, lighting specific for safety, we'll address that later.
Okay?
You gotta come up with a good way to deal with trash. The dumpsters aren't seen.
Yeah,
Dumpsters at the
that's-
jail
I believe that's,
It's in the.
I can look, but I believe that they're required to be screened in, by ordinance.
Yeah, down in the auto, the
Let me see.
certification section.
That is, and they actually have to be,
I would agree with you on that.
they have to,
Yeah.
the construction of that has, that enclosure has to be similar to the building as well.
We're looking at that right now. to
What
see-
is that? What's that
I do
chapter?
have it.
It's in the,
Right here, right here.
Oh, yeah. Trash receptacles and other outdoor equipment, including propane tanks, shall be screened from public view using materials which are complementary to and reflect the design of the primary building.
is that
Is that
sufficient?
Yeah. Okay, so that's addressed in the standard, so we don't have to add that as an additional. Perfect, thank you. Okay, are we ready to move on to D? So,
What is this? It's right next to my property, and I don't quite understand what that is.
the blue?
The green.
Right next to Sheep Ridge.
Oh.
That's a
The de-
retention
I'm
pond.
not fighting, I just want to know what it is.
Yeah.
That's,
It's right next door to my property.
Retention ponds.
Yeah, what is it?
so
There's gonna
if
be
you,
standing water next to it.
there will be at times. So if you look at that, I'm trying to think of a good example. If you look at that hotel right at the bottom of the hill, they have a small retention pond right outside of there.
The intention of these, if I may.
Yeah, go
Yes.
ahead,
The
Rod.
intention of those is to hold water that would otherwise potentially cause flooding on the property for a period of time. And then it's released at a reasonable rate. So yes, there will be water in that pond, that's the intended use of it, but it will be completely emptied out again over time. That also has this drainage ditch that runs along that, and pipes out right there. Now, what's happening to that drainage ditch? Is that it's still an open ditch that runs along Sheep Ridge?
It'll have to be either piped or they'll have to do something with it.
Is that going to be, so this means that the water that runs off from all this asphalt concrete is going to go to that area?
Correct. Right, Rod? Yes.
Yes.
Right, on the west end, and 20 west. All that 80/20.
That gets addressed in here too.
Well, that has to be anything.
There's some right there and then talking about drainage.
Yeah. Understood. Well, but I think those are the kinds of things, this,
Yeah, they're also addressed in the standards.
Yeah.
The drainage is
Yeah.
also addressed in the standards there, and it will be completed by engineers, not just our staff in house. They will be completed by third-party engineers. So,
somebody else is aware of the gas station that's out on the dirt road. We live.
So if you'll, one of the other recommendations that I have on here is that they improve Sheep's Bridge Road through their property.
so if you'll wait and just, we are going to get to them. As per suggestion, we follow the conditions sort of, and we're not ignoring you, we will get there. Okay, so very tight with us and we'll get there.
Yeah, I just need to apologize. I did not commit enough time to help you further. I gotta go.
No,
You're fine, you're fine. This is what happens. We end up with really
That
long
just-
moments.
Having said that, I think that the piece about dialogue, it probably is more meaningful for us than anybody else in the room.
Right.
The whole idea behind this was to give guidance, was to move projects along in a reasonable manner.
Right.
And if we need to engage a little bit further in that, then I'm raising my hand volunteering for some of that. Because I saw this as a fairly complex
And if there's anything we feel like needs to be more,
It sounds like
we'll write it.
You've done your due diligence.
Yeah, we've all had sat down and made conditions.
Yeah, perfect.
So Cameron?
I have a recommendation that if Rod has to leave now, next time he has to bring cookies.
So motion? You have to bring
Cookies.
Oh.
Done, all right. Good.
Thank you, Rod. We appreciate you.
Always need to refresh the department.
Oh, your wife's got it covered.
Exactly.
Rod, we will, if we have any that we need,
Yeah.
we'll just make sure we add it,
Yeah.
and then you can discuss it
Yeah,
on
let
the
me have it.
council level.
Yeah.
And we'll add it, just to be safe in the
I
council
think
level
it's
conditions.
helpful to people trying to get something done, to have something.
Right, 'cause it's, I echo his comments. We do need to make sure we hit both sides. So you're not being ignored either as the developer. So, okay. Cameron, you're done with your conditions, right? Sean, did you have any conditions for C? I'm going to move on to D.
Any idea, those are just my ideas.
I wrote them down because so far mine, I felt like they could be added to, but they were met by the standards. So how about Karen? Do you have any conditions to add to that? Okay, and Dean already did his. Where am I at? I'm like flipping right past it. This is your computer. We
Where did you want me?
were on C, now we're on D. This one here.
Oh, right there?
No, the,
Right there.
Right there, yep.
General plan.
So general plan.
Okay.
Sean,
And
do you have anything to add to this?
just another comment, you go down to the standards and it'll give a list of all the things in our general plan that we can address as far as conditions, traffic, lighting, aesthetics,
So where's the-
noise,
Right
landscaping,
there.
open space areas, general use and design.
Okay.
So it pretty much
So-
opens it to everything.
And traffic is already addressed, so we can't,
Yeah, well, that'll be,
I do have a condition for that, but I don't know if it's a great idea. But it's a condition on the town, not on the developer. So I don't know if we can do that. There's been some conversation about additional signage on 1420 West. We talked about a possible sign.
as far as
Deterring
signage,
traffic to go in there, that's the only thing we can control.
do you
or
want to,
even try.
do you want to discuss traffic right now
Well, that's part of the
as
general plan.
conditions?
But I guess we're discussing it down at the bottom, so let's. skip that
Traffic
one.
as far as, does it follow the general plan? Is this part of our plan? Generally, streets and everything else, was this Sheep Ridge Road eventually will be paved? It's
Yeah.
part of our general plan.
It has been,
So,
we've been caught
so having him
county.
pave that is part of that. So
Right.
yes, we want that done.
Yeah.
Those,
We might get it done, maybe the rest, but-
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the county's been, if you've been out there lately, they've actually improved the road already. So I know that they're working on that at the county level so far.
so yes,
Okay, so now we'll skip right in because that one is
is down
addressed
below.
lower. Aesthetics.
Is there any specific
Do we want to
conditions
add
we want
specific conditions
on
for aesthetics?
the building?
What did we think? There was a comment about aesthetics.
So I can go over,
The
If you
cottonwood
would-
trees are the only one
if
that.
you would
really-
like, if you'd like me to go there, it talks about the aesthetics for the building down here in chapter 16
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm,
So we can review those aesthetics that are already required.
okay, that's a great idea. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to,
I wish my.
I
phone
printed
had
it
that.
out,
I
but
had
it's
it
so
all
small I
prepared.
can't see it.
I know. Well, and my phone had it on it and it died, so. Oh, I can get it back.
You're talking
Right
landscaping?
here, architectural and site design requirements. Virgin Town desires that service stations are developed in a manner that complements the tourism and recreational-based economy of our Gateway Community Design National Park. Site design should be creatively encouraged and incorporate pedestrian and non-motorized access and safety. incorporation architectural design features and landscape that add to the aesthetic appeal of the community within, blah, blah, blah.
Internationally acclaimed scenic surroundings.
The design of the facility is encouraged to include provisions for alternative fuels which are acceptable to the site, such as electric vehicles and charging stations. So alternative fuel, charging stations, building, canopy design, the design that connects the canopy, a design that connects the canopy with the primary store structure is encouraged but not required. Coordinate the roof design and support even if not attached. Canopy fascia shall be finished to match the building material and color. Canopy support shall be at least 25% clad in brick, masonry, wood, or other similar materials. I'm guessing they're not going to want them clad in wood, but maybe some masonry. Downspouts shall be incorporated into the canopy structure. Multiple canopies rather than one large canopy are encouraged. That is the design requirements in our ordinance.
Thanks.
So there was a comment that someone was hoping that the color would be not white, was the general idea.
And it's encouraged in
Yeah.
the standards to do
Yeah, they wanted an earth tone and not white.
Is there a specific condition we want to set on that?
That's what I'm wondering. Sorry, I'm pulling up the thing so I don't have to focus on Cameron's computer. I have my notes.
It's all right, I'll just keep my own computer.
I have notes in here too.
If you can see that.
Sean, did you
but
want
I
to make
have
one?
it.
No, I have notes in here
Okay.
on my other parts. I have this and that. Do you want to make a condition on that? I feel like
There's enough there.
we're gonna make one in the lighting. I know we are. For the community lighting, just downlit things. So we're gonna get to that. Anything other than the lighting? Do you guys have a comment on the design? Okay, so we're good on that.
I mean, we don't want them, we could, if we wanted to, say it's got to look like Fort Zion. We could actually
We
do
could, but
something
we're
like that.
not. We're just gonna roll with that one and save it for the lighting. Go to the next one. We're gonna go to the next one.
All right.
So, Sean, why don't you start? with
Traffic is the
conversation?
next one.
Traffic, okay.
Yep.
I feel like we beat that one, but I feel it bears repeating.
So then the traffic one, what we've done with other developments as well is having them put a sidewalk along the city streets that they pave. So I would recommend that we have them improve Sheep's Bridge Road, like I already said. Let's see, I wrote it down here.
The sidewalk.
Improve Sheep's Bridge Road or coordinate with the county for its improvement. And that would include a walking trail or sidewalk.
On Sheep Ridge Road and the other one or not? The 1420?
I hadn't
We-
thought about 1420.
We don't want people walking down into the community, so if we put a sidewalk there, that will encourage it, wouldn't it?
We can't, the walking, we can't stop, but we can try to stop the driving by. I
Which
feel like in
which-
this one, couldn't we say that that there's no parking? The parking can only be on site and there needs to be signs posted
That's-
as such.
Well, that has nothing to do with the development. That has everything to do with the city. The city can post those streets whenever they want.
Okay,
Okay.
Those are city streets. That's not,
correct.
I mean,
Those are city
we-
streets. Okay, that was one of my conditions,
We-
was that.
On traffic, I think the flow needs to be designed there by an engineer that works in that. Because the way it's drawn now, it's gonna be horrible coming down that road.
It already is.
so I think,
Which
Well,
road?
what I mean is the design process, because that exit needs to be much further back. because the way cars are gonna come out on that, and cars are gonna come in, it's like they're gonna turn on the road and immediately have to make a left.
Will you put a star by the ones
What do you
that are conditions? That's what-
So far, everyone's.
I think everybody's like, oh, because they're mostly what I was going to put on too. That's the problem is my computer. So I'm kind of- All right.
So,
Okay, so improvements on Sheetsbridge Road is one condition with a walking trail and possibly a sidewalk.
I had
Okay.
one, I had one other condition for the traffic as well, that after they do the traffic study with UDOT, additional right-hand turn lane on 1420. So widening 1420 to add a right-hand turn lane.
mhm.
That's a city condition.
Correct, because that's a city
Yes.
street.
That would have to be a city condition.
But that,
No.
based on a traffic
You
study.
can make them do that.
Make the city
We,
do it or
we
make
can
the
make the
do it?
Fine.
developer add that because it's going
As
to
part of the
cause.
improvement to the intersection.
Okay, I thought that was, so we had to have the city do.
Well,
So I thought that was.
if you
something-
extend that road, then yes, it will give that left hand,
There's no straight across on there, so you have a right-hand turn lane and a left-hand turn lane. All right, we'll continue.
Okay, so, but that one, I just, help me straighten out my mind on that one, because when I was writing my conditions, I thought that that street, those are proposals we would have to make to the town. Is that something we can add on
No, because in
to
here,
to this?
in here, the developer, in our ordinances, developers are responsible to improve the city streets.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yes.
Answer to my, that was what I wanted to make sure.
Yes.
That is one we can put in there. Okay, so you want to traffic studies for potential.
If
If it says so.
based on them, if they want to do a traffic study and it's whatever.
But we need to wait until, but there's already a traffic, okay.
This would be a traffic study done by the development for
Right.
their development only.
So if we're on traffic, then we need to talk about the fact
So-
that there's already a traffic study in place.
so there's a traffic study on the highway.
Right.
But we want to know, how many people do they expect to be coming in?
Don't
How,
you think,
how,
don't you think that the
and,
study will
so-
include that because that is an entrance onto SR
but
9?
they will get the information for their study from UDOT and then add it to their study. I really think a study of
So a
some
traffic
sort.
study of 1420
So
or all the
Traf-
way down.
traffic for that flow, how many people are going to be coming in, that stuff will be addressed in a traffic study.
Right, so is that?
We
a
need more
condition
information,
you want
yes.
Added on that.
I,
So how do you want that worded? Because that's what we're doing. Because we have to add them on as a motion. So that's why I'm taking, like, questioning how you want it exactly. Traffic study required on 1420.
Project, no, it's not
It's
about the
not
street,
street.
it's about the project. So
Okay.
just a project traffic study.
Okay.
Part of the project traffic that we estimate.
Traffic. so,
By
okay,
UDOT,
yeah.
UDOT, okay.
Well, they can do it with coordination with them, but yes, but their
And-
engineers will be able to do
So
that.
project traffic study, that's all we need to put. Okay, perfect. Next one. Do you have another one?
Okay, so traffic signage kind of mixed.
Right. We can
Is
skip
there
that.
some way we could require a sign that attempts to limit RVs or big rigs from entering the 1420 entrance? We've got to do something because we don't want them coming off there and coming through there. Now, I do like the idea that we push it back for one reason. That's a berm right there on 1420. If they move it back, people aren't going to see that there's a road over there to enter. They might leave that road, but they're not going to come and enter through that road. They're not going to come off.
I think you're living in the 18th century. You know how people are gonna find their way to that gas station? Google Maps.
Yeah.
Google's going to say, no matter what
And
we
that's
put on here, Google's going to say, turn
Turn right.
left and in 500
Yes.
feet.
And-
I know.
So part of that is with his design,
Yeah.
the one thing I do like about his design is that he did put the service station closest to Sheep's Bridge.
Correct.
I believe that Google Maps will send
It to Sheep's
most
Bridge
people down Sheep's Bridge Road. That's not saying that no one will turn down 1420. It's gonna happen all the time.
Road, but it will.
But I think the bulk of the traffic will be over on the other side. That's my hope, that's my opinion, but,
Okay.
There was a clear sign for the Turkey Bridge, because I could say you get an average of at least 10 people a day being on 1420 Sheep Bridge. And they turn, they turn, you know, right around that corner.
Is,
And they can't make it.
the pavement, just having that intersection paved will help improve that a lot, I'm sure.
City sign.
Yeah, some city signage.
Right.
We get a lot of people who try to go past Sheep Bridge and try to make a U-turn.
Yeah.
You see that these people that
Right.
road.
Cameron and I know about that. Everybody goes by our house, trying to find Grafton.
And there's not even a sign that says Grafton. Is that a potential condition that we could ask this? No, because we can't, that would be a town. Unfortunately, we can't, that's a town issue that you can address with the town on that one. Yeah, thank you.
We put our signs up down by Sheep Bridge.
Correct.
Right.
That's gonna help.
We're gonna be closer down that direction. I mean, if we put it up closer to,
So that was my next question, is it your, I don't want you to have to commit to anything, because this is right now, we're trying to set conditions and we want to write them in for you. Is that your plan? Possibly?
again, yeah, I mean, the objective isn't to run through all the wells. That
Right.
doesn't make any sense. If we put the sign up on that far corner, then they could turn it, but we put it down by Sheep Bridge Road. So we don't have to
Okay.
do those yet, but that would make sense.
The cabin,
Okay, so what do you?
would be like a cabin in this on 1420.
cold enough now?
Okay, so.
It's too cold.
We can turn it back up.
Turn the heat on.
I'll turn it back up. Just say something.
You're not going home tonight, sorry. Then we wouldn't need a conditional use. That's the problem we have, is most of our stuff is conditional use. No, we've been, that's what I'm saying. If we didn't have conditional use, it would be all permitted and all the rules would be in our law.
Okay.
That's what we want to do.
Okay, so.
We want that.
Do we?
So
do we feel
please
like
write
that
them.
We need to address that sign issue that you wanted to talk about it right now.
Okay.
Guys, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude.
So
It's
take
just
that
this
outside.
building is horrible for conversations on the side. So.
Hey, do you want me to
Dean
just,
is freezing
do you want
too.
me to give you the rest of my?
Just go through your list of
Okay.
conditions
Here's
and
the-
then each of us will go through our own list.
Here's
if
the
we had
conditions
to
that
add
I
to it.
had considered over from our last public hearing, and then a few I added from this public hearing. One, the project's required to connect to sewer when it becomes available. 8-foot sound wall on the south side. On the southern, south property line.
Between the residential and the,
Now, would it be, question on that one, not to just send us off rails, would it be prudent maybe instead of saying this privacy
Yes.
wall here, to just have them continue that sound wall?
We could. I
Because
don't-
a sound wall would be more
Okay.
beneficial.
at the elevation, at the current elevation, because if they ended up cutting that back and put an 8-foot wall, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm pretty sure they're planning on putting the wall up above, right?
Above what?
Up on the ridge.
So what Sean is saying, he doesn't want them to cut out the entire hole, cut a big hole into the mountain and then
Just-
put the sound.
And then put the wall
Then
down in
how do
front of
we
the mountain.
edit that sound wall
It's
to
useless.
say that the sound wall goes in unless they, if they change landscaping, change the
But
hill,
we-
how would we say that?
We can give that condition So when they come back with the plans, it will be in there.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So how do we word that condition? That's all I'm worried about right now is to word that
They
condition.
can't cut,
Work with what we've got. Okay.
here's my other
Just go with
conditions if
it?
you,
Okay.
here's my other conditions I can go through
Okay, keep going.
if you'd like. See you, Gene. Operating, advertising, and canopy lights must be turned off outside of store hours, except one sign under 8 feet of height, one advertising sign under 8 feet of height, externally lit with downward lighting,
That
under
covers
3,500 K.
Okay.
Is that sufficient safety lighting?
It's not safety, operating lighting. They still
That's
have
what
to
I'm
have their
asking.
safety.
No, that's what I'm asking. Just specific
Well,
to,
that would be something they'd have to decide when they're dealing with the building part of it, if that's covered by our standards.
yes.
So that's.
Number 10 is ensure necessary bonuses are met to meet the building sizes. So, meaning they can't make those cabins really big or whatever. They have to keep their bonuses to get their, whatever bonuses they need to have their building size, they have to keep those. The addition of trees, landscaping such as trees for screening from the neighborhood properties.
And there was a suggestion,
Is-
I don't know if this helps the developer, Laurie's suggestion was a fast-growing tree such as the cottonwood tree.
No.
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 Look at it,
Cypress.
Cypress.
Bill
So-
looked at one called the Leyland
Okay, so a
and
fast-growing,
Fruition.
fast-growing
Um,
tree was suggested, if that's, just so you can add that to your list.
Can I,
Okay, next.
can I make a comment about that? I know some people who love their trees and some people love their views. And make sure that you're not putting in a condition that's going to create a bigger problem later.
There are different ones at different heights, so that you could put the taller ones at the gas station, but where the land is flat, where the residents are on that side, you can get a lower one.
Landscaping such
And
as
if you
trees
look out there
for
with
screening
the mesa,
to
a
the
20-foot
neighborhood.
tree covers everything.
Okay.
So this condition will just state that it's up to you.
And I'm just saying that
How
so
you do it.
you can hear it
But
as
that was a
well.
suggestion.
So we don't create a bigger problem later and they have to cut them off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom of the hill, running out to
That
our property comes to steeper, and they run along parallel with that there.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, so that condition should cover that and leave it up to the developer. Next.
Address review of egress and ingress with engineers
Okay.
That's in
and
that.
town staff.
That's in that.
Isn't that right?
No broadcasting of music or audio advertising at the pumps.
That would be true for the hillside. You see some people have these signs with flashing advertisements.
And we don't allow those in
We
our
don't.
sign
Yeah.
ordinance.
Okay, what else is yours?
That's all.
Okay. Sean, did you have any additional conditions to add to this? I'm gonna look through mine, make sure that I don't repeat.
Parking, we didn't really address.
Okay, so what's your condition on parking?
So I know in,
Yeah,
we
see
already
my
have
list.
it sort of addressed in our commercial
We don't even
zones.
have to be doing any of this right now. This is my fundamental problem.
Okay.
Do you want to go outside and talk about it?
Yeah, because we can't do this right now. We need to get our,
Yeah,
I
Just
understand
put
what
the
your fundamental
conditions.
problem is, but.
You
we
don't
need
understand.
This,
Come here, I'll explain it to you.
I'll go,
but this needs to be addressed outside. Thank you. Sean, did you have any
So
condition to add to
the,
this?
the problem we have is I'm not sure what the rest of the development is, so how does that affect our gas station? We need the numbers from the traffic study. How many people do they expect to be coming in
So what would
to the convenience store? So the condition would be sufficient parking for the number of customers for the convenience store and gas station must be met,
based on traffic study?
based on traffic study,
So
yeah,
could we do parking sufficient to traffic study numbers?
yes. I'll
Sean or Jean? Well, he was talking.
Just a reminder that your conditions are going to run with the land. So if you can write your conditions in such a way that they are things that are long-term, not just for the building of the project. You can put some requirements on there or requirement recommendations, and the staff can deal with that. But as far as the conditional use permits, remember that the conditions run with the land permanently, regardless of who owns it or anything else. So a traffic study is kind of in the building process, which is going to happen anyway, but it's not really something that's going to run. Once it's done, and
So-
shouldn't remain on the deed.
So some of these.
Right.
we-
So-
Just think about that while you're writing them.
We can
Also,
recommend to
if I might add, the one condition is from me on the sewer. They are required to hook up to sewer when it's available, abandon their current septic at their own expense. It needs to be worded exactly like that. Thanks.
Good. Thanks for the reminder. I
you.
figure we'll go through those and that being in mind. So as far as the parking, the ideas are that there's sufficient parking based on a traffic study. So therefore makes it long-term. Along with that though, there's going to be RVs, there's going to be potentially even a bus, I don't know, pull in there. Right now in the concept plan, I don't see anything where that's really addressed, where they're going to be able to park those longer, bigger vehicles. How do we address that?
RV parking. Where is the RV parking located on this?
It'd be pull-through parking?
Yeah, we're not showing any RV parking on this.
I'm just talking larger vehicle pull-through parking.
Is that a condition you want to put on there, that he have larger vehicle pull-through parking?
That's what we're
That's why I was
addressing.
asking if it was any of that was, and it's not at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so. Okay,
And we already have the sizes of the lot, or the parking spaces and everything in our thing, so we don't need to address that.
okay. Next condition that we would like to go over. And you met in Cameron's, he met, well, I think you met my condition, all of my conditions. The lighting on the canopy was addressed. The exterior lighting was addressed in one of Cameron's conditions. Fencing and screening was also addressed with an 8-foot sound wall, right? You said that. And we also said that they wanted landscaping, okay? And then we addressed, I'm just going on the list like you wanted. The site has planned to have sufficient utility capability or capacity. It does. And it will be addressed in the size of the. And then exterior lighting, that was the one we just discussed. Possible impacts for groundwater.
Our current ordinance requires all downlit shielded.
Okay, I feel like all these, do you feel like all
That
these
our
standards
current
have been met
ordinance
by our
requires
conditions?
that.
I feel
And
like they
so,
So I just think
Yes.
all emergency, all safety and security lighting should be fully shielded. Fully shielded.
Okay.
does that include your street?
Did you have any besides
lighting?
mine?
That's what I was looking at that to make sure that everything I had written down was met.
Does-
And emergency lighting should be shielded. Anybody else have any additions to the conditions we've come up with thus far? Sean added some, Cameron had some. Kevin
just,
pretty much hit all of mine. I'm gonna
Misty.
send a recommendation to the town about the sign that we talked about last time.
Just one more thing on lighting, the street lighting. I know that is a town thing, but it's really a developer thing. They have to arrange with, it would be, if it's on that corner, it has to be addressed through the developer as well as UDOT and the town. Because the intersection will have to be lit up. So at least the corner where their light is, that will have to be addressed. Both utilities to it as well as the light. So I don't know what kind of condition or something for that, but it does have to be addressed.
So how would you like to word that?
I think you can just apply that, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good. That's why we're talking.
Improve Sheep's Ridge, my condition that
Mhm.
required them to improve Sheep's Bridge Road, you could just also include,
Street lighting.
yes, including sidewalks and street light.
That's a good one. And then okay. Where's that one? Dean,
Once
Karen,
it's
do you
done,
two
it's
have
done.
anything?
Did you have any,
Once it's
did
done,
you
it's
discuss
done.
any added ones
It's
while I
not
was
really a
gone?
condition.
Just the parking. We talked about a parking, RV parking, and you came in on the end of that one. And then
So
parking
is that a-
sufficient for a traffic study.
Is that a case?
That if the traffic study suggests they need additional parking, or it needs to change in some way.
Okay.
When you say RV parking, that could be an ATV, but it could also be a bus.
Right, we're gonna work on the wording of that. We just wrote RV parking for right now, because we didn't have the wording
So-
for that. So we're gonna have to call it like Big Rig or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Thank you.
And just to let public know, there is it's specific in this one. There's no
Pull-through parking?
parking more than, I believe it says
Pull-through
48
parking.
hours.
Pull through parking.
There's
I like
no
that.
parking beyond that, and the developer can
Okay.
specifically apply a shorter rule if they want.
We're gonna change that to pull through parking,
Pull through, I like.
because that way it covers trailers and whatnot.
Mhm.
Can I make a motion?
You certainly can.
All right. Are you ready, Crystal?
Did you review all the
Did you add
conditions?
these too?
Did we review the conditions already?
Did you read these? That's what we're doing right now, so. if-
Can we review it before a motion?
I would like to make a motion,
And then make the motion?
Make a motion.
I
to
make a
discuss.
motion that we approve the CUP, concept plan and CUP for, how's it written on our thing?
Oh, right here.
For approximately SR9 and Sheep's Bridge Road
For the gas station.
for the service station. Additional CUP requirements include: 1, the project is required to connect to sewer when it becomes available.
And to abandon their current septic at own expense.
And so added.
I forgot you weren't in here for that. I'm sorry.
2, an 8-foot sound wall on the southern property line. Sound wall may not be placed in front of terraced stone or grading. A 6-foot privacy fence on the east property line from the point of egress to the southern property line. An 8-foot privacy fence on the west side from point of egress, ingress to the southern property line. 4, operating, advertising, and canopy lights must be turned off outside of store hours, except one sign under 8 feet of height with, that is externally lit with downward lighting and under 3,500 K. No sale goods except ice, firewood, and propane can be stored or displayed outside the building. 6, no vending machines or ATMs located outside the building. 7, graffiti, vandalism must be removed or addressed within 2 business days. 8, a traffic study must be conducted for the property. 9, pause.
Can't write as fast as you're talking. Go back to 8.
Number 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm on, number 8.
Wait, it was before the vandalism, the graffiti.
No vending, number 6, no vending machines or ATMs located. 7, graffiti. 8, a traffic study must be conducted for the project. Got it? Based on the traffic study, an addition of a right-hand turn lane to 1420 East. That's based on if the traffic study recommends it. If the traffic study recommends it. All right. Improve Sheep's Bridge Road or coordinate with the county for its improvement, including sidewalk or walking trail and streetlights. In front of the entire length of the property. They must ensure, the project must ensure necessary bonuses are met to meet building size. Landscaping such as trees must be used for screening from the neighborhood. Egress and ingress to the property must be reviewed and approved by town engineer and be in accordance to the traffic study. No broadcasting of music or audio output for advertising at the pumps. Safety and security lighting must be fully shielded. The project must include pull-through parking. That's it.
Motion's made. Do I have a second? Second. Discussion. Can I ask a question about the emergency lighting part? Do we need to say downlit, or is that in our standards sufficient because it says downlit?
It's already in our lighting ordinance currently, everything must be downlit and fully shielded.
Thank you. Question
Already there.
answered. So we have a second. Any further discussion at the commission table?
Yes, the traffic study as a specific condition, it's addressed twice that we refer to a traffic study. I do like that better than saying a specific traffic study in the, as a condition, because once it's done, is done. There's, it, and like Gene says, it runs with the land. There was a traffic study done. Would there ever, they'll never have to meet that condition again. So conditions that are a one-time thing, we should require differently. And I think we do that by, addressing it through other conditions that refer to a independent traffic study.
Perfect. Okay,
So I would recommend that we just remove that one condition.
the one condition.
He's recommending that we remove the traffic study as a condition. I think it's fine to stay in
I
there.
think it's okay to stay in there. I mean, it'll be removed.
I'm wrong on that, and I just remembered why. They said even though it's used one time and then it's not something like the land, that you want to leave it on there. I forgot the attorney said this. You want to leave it on there to show that it was. If it's in the file. So,
All right. Yeah, I'm just wondering, since we refer to a traffic study in two other conditions, do we need a specific one for that? So that was the only thing. We can leave it in, I don't really care.
Okay.
It's,
Anybody else have any further discussion at the table?
I actually had a few other questions, but it might have been addressed in the density
That was the bonus.
condition. Yes, but the density and the bonus, it still comes down to the splitting of lots and things like that, and also the wastewater issue gets tied into that, so.
Okay, let's complete this motion. If you're adding more conditions, we're gonna have to re-motion or make a friendly amendment. to
Right,
the
that's
motion.
why I think we need to go through the conditions, so.
So would you
before our
like to
motion-
make a
Would
friendly
you like to
amendment?
make a friendly amendment, or shall we vote and then you can motion to adapt? We have to finish the motions.
If it's nothing but a concept.
We have to finish the motions real quick. Do you want to make a friendly amendment?
I'm not gonna.
You can
I-
add it as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
That's how you word it. I'm
I
not,
wanted the discussion of, is that going to be addressed? There's going to be 4 lots, and the wastewater has to be tied in. How would we write that as a condition?
That's not, so the way that they do that is they do this. This development works just like a subdivision. So they're going to join into something similar to an HOA. That's required. The only reason they're splitting those lots up is because that's required by the state, that they have to be multiple lots. Then they're monitored by Ash Creek Special Service District. And Ash Creek Special Service District says they have to split the lots. They're not going to come monitor one lot by itself. They have to split them so that Ash Creek will monitor them, and the state says Ash Creek has to monitor them. So that's convoluted, but they have to split the lots.
Yes. Should we put that for this specific, since we're doing the conditional use on this one use, on this one property, the rest is just concept? Do we want to put that in as one more condition, that has to be that way?
well, it sounds like a condition or not, it's happening.
Mm-hmm. But,
Because it has to happen.
but it
No.
has to meet our ordinances.
It's gonna have to meet Ash Creek.
No, I don't want to put that as a condition.
I
I
don't
won't
think it
accept
should.
that as a friendly amendment.
It sounds
I'm
like,
just asking.
it sounds like it's going to happen.
I have a motion on the table.
Yes, you do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion on the motion as stated?
No.
Are we ready to vote? Just want to make sure. Okay, let's take a vote. Sean,
I'm not ready yet.
McKenna,
Yes.
Dean,
No.
Karen? Yeah. Myself? Yes. Because they can add more on. So motion is waiting on Sean.
No, it's not. It's already passed, but I don't vote
So
for
are you
it. I vote
abstaining? You
no.
have to say I'm abstaining. or
I
no?
vote no.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Conditions can be added and requested to be added by the town council. So anything you feel that we have not met in these conditions can be addressed at the council meeting when this is brought before them, because they're
This
the final
doesn't,
say.
this doesn't go to council.
It doesn't go
It
to
doesn't?
council.
Yeah, when the
Nope, we're
condition
done.
part doesn't. it?
Nope, this does not
We're
go to
done.
council.
Okay, we're done for the.
That was
No,
his
just
motion.
with this one. We still have 8 more.
You can go home if you want.
can.
You don't even know what this
You don't
is.
feel like you need to add any more to this.
The next one is corral.
Okay, so the next question is, the next ordinance is 2021-22, amended chapter 2.2 definitions, corral.
Can I address the comment by Lori?
Yes.
Yes, address Lori's comment.
Lori's comment last meeting was this, my pasture could be a corral. That's why I believe this was thrown up as pasture and corral. I agree that it either should have stayed the same, or even better, I would propose the proposed wording that we eliminate both corral and pasture as definitions, because the only place corral is found in our ordinance is in the agricultural zone, as which needs to be changed as well, because that's where it says you can't have a corral within 50 feet of a dwelling. And I don't think that's should be correct in an agricultural zone. We all know what corral is. You can find it in any dictionary. It doesn't need to be in our definitions. So I would make a motion that we.
Do we have more comments?
You can make a
Oh,
motion.
you make a motion.
Right. Mayor asked for definition for both.
There was the
Yes.
definition, what was wrong with the other?
So the,
Because he wanted corral and pasture.
the concern, and this will address Lori's question today, why they wanted the definition for corral changed was they don't, the town council did not want the definition to include what a corral wasn't. They wanted the definition to state what a corral was, not what it wasn't. And the current wording kind of just says what it's not.
Yes.
So this the current definition says a corral is a space other than, or in other words, that's not a building or a pasture used for the confinement of livestock. So they wanted that, what it's not taken out of the definition. So they wanted it defined as what it is, not what it isn't.
Why do you have the word definition of corral?
Agreed.
So make your.
I would make a motion that we recommend we recommend approval of this ordinance with the following change, that we strike corral and pasture from definitions. Pasture's not in there,
I
but
second it.
Okay, there's been a motion made in a second. Is there discussion on this motion?
yes.
And pasture.
And pasture, why do you need a definition of what a pasture is or what a corral is?
Pasture is not
Because
in our
Lori was
definitions.
worried.
Wait,
It is.
we're
Stop.
talking about the motion. You're repeating it back to Crystal real quick for the record. You got
Yes.
it?
Repeat it back.
Recommend to the town council this ordinance, which has both corral and pasture. I recommend striking corral and pasture from the definitions. the proposed wording. So because this,
So just take
I'm-
out the corral and pasture, just put up and or.
nope,
No, the whole.
the
thing,
whole
just
definition,
Strike it.
Removing the definition.
removing the definition.
Sean made the motion, Jean or,
Yes, I'm making a friendly amendment.
okay, go ahead.
Pastures proposed,
Yes.
so we don't need to add pastures, just remove corral from the definitions. And we're not going to add pasture.
So just leave an enclosure. Or
No.
take that out too.
We're under the definition.
Everything. Getting rid of the definition completely.
Right, so it just needs to say getting rid of the definition corral and not adding these pasture. Do you accept my friendly motion?
Yeah.
Motion made,
Explains
second, discussion done, let's have a vote. Sean?
Yes.
Cameron?
No.
Dean? Karen? Yes, myself.
We had so much fun though.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Now, motion carried. We're rolling on to D, discussion of possible recommendation to approve or deny ordinance 2021-30, amending chapter 34, highway resort zone, bed and breakfast. Use. She also asked why on this one as well.
So the reason,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
the reason why we're changing this is because the state has asked all the towns and communities to go through their ordinances, make appropriate regulations, and remove them from conditional use. The state has asked us to put them as permitted uses. If we're going to allow them, we need to set the standards and then put them in permitted uses. So when I was reviewing this chapter to do that, my opinion is that the standards that we have for a bed and breakfast are sufficient enough that it can be removed from conditional and put into permitted.
Okay, any further discussion? Because that did answer Laura's question, that was the same question she had. Okay, does someone want to make a motion for me?
I make a motion to approve proposed ordinance 2021-30, amending chapter 44 highway resort zone use.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Sean seconds. Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Sean?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yeah.
Dean?
Yes.
Karen? Myself, yes, motion carries. Discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny ordinance 2021-31, amending chapter 44, highway resort zone, highway, or for brewery and winery. And her question was why, which is the same answer, correct?
Same answer.
Okay,
Yes.
So, any discussion from the commission? Okay, someone want to entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-31, amending, I read the wrong one.
2021-31. We can start the motion over.
I make a motion from E, right? To
Yes.
approve proposed ordinance 2021-31, amending chapter 44 of the highway zone use brewery and wine.
Second.
Sean seconds. Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Sean?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Karen? Myself, yes. Now we're on discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny ordinance 2021-32, amending chapter 30, uses chart. We answered Lori's question in it, that it was just removing it. Is there any discussion at the table? Okay, can I have a motion? On F?
I make a motion that we recommend approval for ordinance 2021-33, 2021-32, amending chapter 30 uses chart.
Karen seconds. Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Sean?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Dee?
Yeah.
Karen? Yes. Myself, yes. So now we're on the discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny ordinance 2021-33, amending chapter 44, highway resort zone uses, restaurant, food truck.
Same answer to Lori's question on this one.
So I just wanted to make sure.
Additionally, this is already a permitted use in the commercial zone.
Okay.
I make a recommend to approve proposed ordinance 2021-33, amending chapter 44, highway resort zone use, restaurant, food truck.
Second.
Sean seconds. Any discussion? Let's take a vote. Sean?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Myself, yes. Discussion and possible recommendation to,
There was one other comment on there they're asking if we were doing this because there was proposed
yes,
projects for these. The answer to that is not that I'm aware of.
not that I'm aware of either. Anybody else aware of any? No, I had the same answer you did, but it was, the state doesn't like conditional use permits. Okay, so now we're going to discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny ordinance 2021-34, amending chapter 44.06, highway resort zone location.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 20.
You guys say your fixes on this, we transferred it, we tabled it, we didn't make any changes. So
Yep.
say your changes on here. That's why it wasn't made.
You weren't here last time, so we made
Oh,
some
that's
changes.
right. We need to change the north and the south.
And the 2020 needs to be 2021.
I missed that meeting.
Okay.
I
So
think-
if you're making a motion, you have to make one of those if you're still changing.
Thank you for point of order. So we needed to make, it was to change north. North and south.
You want me to make,
We had it worded exactly the way we wanted it, and I thought you were that you were editing it, so I didn't write it.
I have it edited
Which
right
portion
here.
of this needs to change up here? Okay.
It's right here. I have it edited. I have it right here.
Is that what it needs to say?
Mm-hmm. That's what I said. That's what I stated in my last motion too.
Okay, so let's,
So change north to south approximately 300 east.
so maybe just read the proposed wording to be this.
The proposed wording on this should read, lie within the area south of Entrada Drive, east of Camino del Rio, and south of SR9 to the furthest east and west, to the furthest east, comma, and west to grid line approximately 300 east.
So before we do that, there was a comment on that we probably should address. She asked about, this is not a zone change request for one specific property.
This is not a zone change request at all.
Right, and so she said this was not what Linda wanted. But however, this is just changing the highway resort zone location. I just wanted to address that it's not zoning, it's changing the location of the highway resort zone, so. So now if you wanna, I'll entertain a motion that just says the new proposed wording that Cameron's.
I'll make a motion that we deny proposed ordinance 2021-34,
Is there a second?
which, you want me to read how it reads?
Okay.
Which reads, 3, period, lie within the area south of Entrada Drive, east of Camino del Rio, and south of SR9, to the furthest east, comma, and west to the grid line approximately 300 east.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend denial to town council. Do I have a second? Second by Karen. Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Sean?
It doesn't matter if we changed it or not. It's kind of silly. Yeah.
Friendly motion, friendly adjustment to the motion to make the ordinance number 2021-34 because the advertised was 2021-30 or 2020-34, which is incorrect. Do you accept my friendly motion?
Sure, I read it as 2021.
I know, but we have to make it legal for the. I do as
Yes.
instructed, say yes, thank you. Discussion? Vote, Sean?
No.
Cameron?
Yes.
Myself, yes? Yes. Dean?
Not really sure on this one.
Do you know what, when we deny or approve, it sends it to town council for denial or approval, we'll send it as well.
I missed that meeting.
You can abstain, you don't have to. And you abstain, Dean abstains. Motion carries.
Sorry.
You're great, no problem. So I will entertain a motion.
Can I make a motion that we stop naming streets and we just give them numbers?
Parcel numbers?
We just,
That's just
no more
housekeeping.
street names,
That's just housekeeping.
just numbers.
That's housekeeping.
No, it's not.
It's not? What do you
No
mean?
subdivision can ever name a street again. They just have to put the
No.
number.
You can write up an ordinance for that.
I'm going
Make it
to.
happen In the subdivision.
I'm
ordinance.
going to.
Okay, thank you
There's
very
no
much.
more naming of streets.
Commissioner comments?
That's my comment.
Okay,
What?
want to settle the issue. I'm fine with the way everything was written to approve the conditional use, but we should not be voting on a concept plan.
And maybe we should address that in our,
Because we gave him, said they're gonna approve the conditional use, so he can come back with a whole different drawing and do what he wants.
and hopefully he will come back with a different drawing.
So,
A lot of conditions.
so we shouldn't be voting on concept plans because they're just concepts. The person doesn't have to stick to that concept. We should just be voting to approve the conditional use. And why is the gas station a conditional use?
So maybe we can address that with our ordinance, because the reason they do bring a concept plan is because we require them to bring a concept
I got no
plan.
problem bringing the concept plan, the requirement of it, so we can get the public input. I just don't like the language that we're voting on.
Oh, you think we should just vote on, you think
Just the
that
conditional
we should
use.
just vote on the conditional use
Yes.
Right.
permit?
Because why do you vote on a concept plan
When we're gonna ask them to change it.
or when they can come back and do something totally different? They could scrap the cabins and just put a gas station in.
So if we want that to change, we need to, this is what he's suggesting by ordinance. If we want that to change, we need to propose an ordinance that changes it, because as it sits now, we have to, that's why I was saying, I totally understand where you're coming from with that, but we have to change it now. Like, this is the point, right, now that we're talking.
Right.
So if you want to write something different for that section,
Okay.
feel free, and we will, and all of us will go over it with you, and we'll change it, right? That's what you were suggesting? I mean, that way it
The
fixes
thing
it,
was
makes
saying
more
the
sense.
same thing, we shouldn't be voting on a
Right.
concept. The concept of the concept.
So in the chapter 16, in that section, we need to change that. So if you want to, do you want to take that on as a project?
Sure.
Then that would satisfy it. I think everybody agrees with you, but
Yeah, because otherwise we're gonna vote on concepts, but we expect the concept to have some detail, so we know what we're voting on.
I agree with you. So why, will you write something up and then we
Yeah.
can, you can email it to everybody and we'll send you back the comments?
You good with that, Cameron?
Good with that? I think it's awesome. don't you?
I'm more than good with that. You know what else I'd be good with?
Right.
If someone motioned for this meeting to end.
You said we have to have commissioner
Yeah.
comments. Commissioner comments. Anybody
One-
else want to talk?
Hey, that was my comment.
Sean
One more
wants to talk.
quick comment.
Sean wants to
Oh,
talk.
lighting.
In reviewing winery, I realized we never took out pesticide application in the requirement in here, and that's covered by the ag department in the state, and we have no say on how that's done. So I will be proposing to remove that. Can we just put that right in, or do we need to have a work meeting on it?
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
on that.
That's,
But I do have a question. Cameron did bring up a good, he said lighting ordinance, he whispered it. Are you ready that after all of this, now that we've gotten all these heavy hitters out of the way, can you,
not
out
as,
of the way,
not
but
as
we've
public
discussed them.
hearing.
No, not for public hearing. Are
Yeah.
you ready for me to put it on for regular
Yeah,
meeting?
work meeting,
I'll put it
I'm
on.
gonna put it
regular
in both.
meeting, I don't
I'm
care.
gonna put it in both.
Yeah,
Okay.
we want
You're
public,
gonna put it on anyway?
I'd put it on as a public hearing.
Yes, you would, but it's a big.
you know how
one.
many times it's been on public hearing?
Well, let's do it and get it done. That'll be our heavy hitter next month. Okay. I will take
We'll see.
a motion for E. If someone wants to make it.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're done.
So our one person that stayed the whole time, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, who are you?
My name's Jeffrey. I'm looking at buying this property, so I'm just curious
Good luck.
how the plan